and I'm starting to see a lot lately. And I'm messing. Hold on, I want to fix the panel so the panel can kind of see it a little bit better, or whatever. But it's a lot of debate going on with people who have different information and access to different information and all that stuff about whether we're native, whether we're indigenous, whether we're all from Africa and we don't want to be African. We're just really quote unquote pretendians or whatever the case may be. So I want to have this conversation, a respectful conversation. And this is going to be in respect. This is not to diminish anybody as long as we can have a respectful conversation about this. I think that there's a lot of education that can be done because there's a lot of people on this app in particular who really don't know the truth, who really don't know because let's be honest, our system, this government has taught people lies. This government has miseducated people, okay, about our history as foundational Black Americans. All right. And when I say foundational Black Americans, I am explicitly talking about Black Americans who are descendant from American chattel slavery. That is it. That is all. So that the term foundational Black Americans, that's what that means. That's just the name for the lineage of people who are descended from American, North American, United States of America, chattel slavery. All right. So a lot of people have done some research, and I've been seeing it on this app as of late, and I've been meaning to talk about this. And they're saying that they found indigenous people, they found native people in their family tree. A lot of people who have come up here and say that they have native people in their family tree, they've admitted that. And then sometimes that gets gaslit. Some people say that no, there's no native. Black people are always trying to claim to be something that they're not. And then the term pretendian comes up. Oh, you're a pretendian. You're not no real native. You're really from Africa. The reason why Black people are on this land is because Europeans brought you here on the slave ships from Africa. You guys don't want to be African. What's wrong with you? So you have people like that who are on that side. You also have people who are saying that no slave ships came here. You have people who are saying that slave ships weren't here. That was a lie. That's misinformation. People who make the argument, where are the slave ships now? People who've made the argument that most of they have admitted that most of the slave ships went to South America in the Caribbean and they didn't actually go to North America. And the logistics of bringing all of these Black slaves from Africa to a land and then enslaving him on another land, that's really just not how slavery effectively runs. So that doesn't even seem like it's the truth when you look at it objectively. So it does make sense that Black people are native here. There are scientific research. There is scientific research that there were Black people here centuries before Columbus ever came to America. And what a lot of people don't know is Columbus, he actually came to South America. Columbus actually didn't discover, when they say he discovered America, they mean the Americas, okay? They don't mean North America. They don't mean the United States of America, okay? Or the land that would become the United States of America. When they say he discovered America, they mean collectively the Americas. That means North America and South America included, okay? And that's what he discovered, South America, technically, all right? So you have people who make different arguments on both sides. You have people who say, well, if you do a DNA test, Buap the Bam is going to come back to Africa or whatnot. So what I want to do is I want to host a conversation, a respectful conversation, where people can maybe pull up some of their receipts or pull up some of their stories about
Are
how
you
they
one of those
found out
people
or
who
what.
ask a question?
Hold on. Because in my rooms, I have a certain order that I like to operate in my rooms. That way everybody gets a fair chance to speak. So I'll let you speak when I'll call your name. So I just want to let people know what this room is about. But we have people who want to speak already. So BX is the mod here. So she'll be setting the decorum of the room. I'll let her go ahead and then we'll get to the hands.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Afro. Thank you for having the discussion. I didn't think it was going to be so soon, but we're here, right? So when you immediately come up on the panel, go on mute until directed to speak. I'll try not to interrupt you as you talk, and I ask others to do the same, but I will stop you if you get a little disrespectful or tend to be spreading some form of misinformation. Of course, the host will do the same. Keep it TikTok friendly, meaning use strange fruit, unaliving,
Yes, ma'am.
self-deletion, hard candy, and also do the same in the chat. If you hear someone slip, immediately comment with fruit emoji. Do not put F1. And so while we're at it, Afro Elite, if you look by his name, there's a heart right next to it. Click that and complete the daily mission. It'll help push the live up into the algorithm and in the ranking. So let's have a good discussion. Oh, how you identify. We're going to ask you for your race and ethnicity. You don't have to state your pronouns, your age, if unless you want to, right? So when I say my race is black, my ethnicity is African American slash Black American, but I culturally identify as a foundational Black American, that means that my ancestors can be found in the United States anywhere between 1863 to 1865 and can also be located and
I'm sorry. I
documented
have to
on the
go. I'm from Iran.
1878
I have to go. I'm
census.
very sorry. I'll
Okay,
come
bye,
back.
bye,
Okay,
bye,
I'll
bye,
okay.
come
bye,
back.
Well,
bye,
if you
bye,
from
bye.
Iran, you got other
Um,
issues to worry about. You don't need to be worrying about what's
right.
going on right here.
Right. Yeah. Oh God. So if your family cannot be identified or documented on the 1870 census, you are not an African American slash Black American. That is my ethnic group. That is Afro Elite's ethnic group. Okay. So you are to identify as your parents' country of origin, which would be Nigerian American, Ghanaian American, Jamaican American, Haitian American, Bayesian American, even and so forth and so on. If you are like Puerto Rican and we ask you your race, Mexican, if we ask you your race, we mean a white tea, Afro, Mexican, so forth and so on. And we understand mestizos and we understand Tainos. So, okay, so you can say that you two are either mestizo or Taino with your country of origin, and we'll get it. So I think that's it, Afro, unless you could think of anything I missed.
I think that's it too. I think that's it. I think we did good.
Oh, you know what? We're gonna have American Indians in here who probably don't like the word black. We already know about the black law codes, etymology,
Mhm.
things like that. We still identify as black. American or any way I said earlier. If you are an American Indian, please tell us that you are American Indian. Don't just say American because then I got to do the whole spiel over. Was your ancestors here and so on and so forth. So let's just be forthcoming because I'm going to take you at your word. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you. So let's get this room started, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get this room started. So the first person we have up here is Foundational American. You got it.
Peace, family. Halito Chimachuk, my for those who don't know me, Saj Fayad, Foundational American. I am American Indian reclassified as Black American.
Okay.
All right, and so the question on the prompt is: are Black Americans African, Native, or both? So the thing is, when it come down to I think the problem is a lot of people like to start with this we and us and our, right? And they speak for everybody's bloodline. And I think that's the problem. I can't come up here and say all black Americans are this or all black Americans are that, right? Because that's like saying that is like saying all of Africa is one thing. When you have North Africa, right? You have the Ethiopians, you have then you have the West Africans, right? There's all people of different bloodlines. Well, that's the same thing here in the United States. We got to understand that the slave trade, the enslaved trade, was the most unique enslaved trade ever, right? So we had the enslavement of the Filipinos. We had the enslavement of the Indians from India. So there's people with Indians from India bloodline. We have a gentleman, you can look him up. He has the bloodline of Ramsey III as a Black American, right? So he has Egyptian bloodline. Literally, he's on the news. We have the Melungeons. We have who have different bloodlines. We have the Creoles who have French and other bloodlines, right? So we can't say we all and blanket everyone, right? You got to pretty much speak for your own bloodline, right? And so Um, there may be some people that have African ancestors, right? Because we understand that 90,000 Africans did come off a slave ship, according to slavevoyages.org. New updated numbers, is 90,000 Africans that came here. So there are some people that may have some African ancestors, that they can follow suit. But we also understand that 2.5 to 5 million American Indians were also enslaved on the same plantations of the 90K Africans, right? And so I encourage people to speak for their own bloodline. Do your family tree, genealogy, and history. I would never blanket everyone and say we all one thing.
Okay. I respect that. I can respect that. I can respect that. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's um a lot of us. The history is complicated. I'm not going to be too long, but the history is complicated. A lot of us didn't come from the same exact place, or nor did we come at the same exact time. When we talk about the slave trade, we make it seem like there was this huge ship that had 1 million people on it and came at one time. There was ships going back and forth and from here, and then there were ships coming from Europe. So there were ships all over the place. You know, there were people who are already here, indigenous people who are already here in North America, South America. There were people who came from Europe after the Spanish defeated the Moors and enslaved them. So it's a lot of mix of a lot of different things. You know, so you might be something, but then another Black American from another state, or might be something different. So I can respect that. Let's get to thank you. Let's get to AI.
What's going on, y'all? My name's Kamal from Miami, Florida. Um, ethnic wise, I identify as FBA, but my mother is Jamaican, but my father's FBA. I grew up culturally FBA, so that's how I identify. With this topic here, I actually been talking about this for a minute, and it's puzzling because, like how you said, I think there's a lot of misinformation about the slave trade. First of all, I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense economically. I don't think it makes sense practically. I just don't understand how you could just supposedly just grab 12.5 people from their own land, throw them in a boat, and then have them in the worst conditions and think that they survived that trip for 2 to 6 months with no fresh water, no fresh food, with urine, feces. If you don't pick up pee after 24 hours, that turns into acids. So I'm saying, so I'm not understanding how they thought they could transfer so many people all to America. And then even if you did survive, you're not even in no conditions to work. So you're just gonna come off the boat, be ready to pick some cotton and get straight to the fields. So I just challenged the whole idea of the slave. Now I do think that they did probably get a few people, but I don't think it's the number that they said. I think a lot of us were probably already in the Americas, and then some of us were brought to the Caribbean. But I don't think the number of 12.5 is realistic or practical. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Okay. Now, I'm not gonna. I know you probably have to do some more research and all that stuff. Um, and I was just about to ask you if you believe the whole thing was artificial or not, and you just specified that. What do you think is the more realistic number, in your opinion?
I'll say maybe a few hundred, maybe a few thousands. You know what I'm saying? I'll say because if you came to America and you seen natives, why not just take them? And then the whole because they got sick. Well, we were sick coming off the boat. I don't understand it. Like, why would you not use them? So I think a lot of us was already here that they enslaved, and they probably got a few from Africa, maybe a couple thousands, and brought them to the Caribbeans. I don't think they brought a lot to America. It doesn't make sense. And then who's supplying the boats? You gotta pack food and water for these trips. So this is a lot of money being wasted. I just don't think it's economically smart.
That's, hey, I mean, when you think about it, that's a good point. I mean, that does make sense, just practically. And then you have to think this happened centuries ago. This happened in what they say happened in the 1600s. Imagine doing all of this, accomplishing this feat in the 1600s successfully until, because they said the slave trade roughly ended really in the 1800s. Imagine doing this for 100 plus years. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't really seem like something that you could sustain, really, realistically. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, but when people make the argument that no, that's not really the practical way of enslaving somebody, I would have to agree. You know, when you look at it when you look at the logistics of it, and then considering the time that they said that this stuff happened in the 1600s, I'm like, okay, all right. Now, it's interesting. Let's get to simply so Shoshana. I believe that's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm simply Shoshana. My race is Black. My ethnicity, ethnic Black American. If you get more specific, my family's from the Chesapeake region, so I identify as Chesapeake Creole. In my, I agree with what the first speaker was saying. Foundational Black American. People really can only speak for their like own lineage, and I've been doing a lot of research into my own lineage, and I find both. So I find Africans who were imported via the slave trade. And it's more recently that I found indigenous or native roots from the area that I come from. So when I hear people say I have indigenous or I have native ancestors, I don't knock anyone because people say, "Oh, it's just stories. Everyone has that stories." Well, it was just stories until with my family until I started doing the research and actually finding paper trails. So I just give respect to everyone in their own oral histories to their family because I find a lot of times we diminish our own oral history for written history from people whose only goal was to destroy us. So I just say for everyone, do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me touch on that before we get to the next speaker. We've had a thing because of the system of, I'm gonna just say this one time, the system of white supremacy. We have a thing where we believe that everything that they say is just, it's like automatically true until proven untrue. And everything that we say is automatically untrue until proven true. You know, so the history they write down, that's the true history that we have to disprove. In the history that we say, that's the lie that needs to be verified. It's just automatically seen as something that's a lie or untrue or misinformation or disinformation. If a black person says it, our oral history is stigmatized as a default untruth, a default lie, default misinformation, especially when you juxtapose that to the Europeans' written history. That's truth, okay? That's gospel right there. That's really not to be challenged for the most part. And if our oral history doesn't coincide with their written history supersedes our oral history. So what they say is what really happened, you know? And it's a part of the indoctrination that we do have to grow out of.
Um, May I chime in here really fast,
All
guys?
right. Yeah.
So I think people have it confused what foundational Black Americans are. So please
You gotta
mute.
mute. You gotta mute yourself as you're coming up.
So we are basically a new ethnic group, right? We are an amalgamated group. So some of us will have African ancestry, but we're not African. Does that make sense? Meaning that we are displaced from the continent for so many years that we do admit that we have ancestors who were captured by rival African tribes and sent into captivity with the Europeans. Once here on this land, either they were bred by force or willingly intermingled with those of the land. So the average Black American has African descent, indigenous descent, and European descent. And many of us are finding out that we also have Southeast Asian within our DNA. So there's not one easy fix to us, right? So that's our cultural identifier, and then it's up to us to do our personal genealogy. So our specific lineage is ours, and maybe our first and second cousins, right? So for me personally, I have all four of those categories. While it doesn't exhibit in me, I present as a foundational Black American, like Black American. But my children were born very light, one with blue eyes, very brownish, like sandy brown hair and stuff. So genetics is a little funny. I can find some indigenous ancestors' names. The Africans are pretty elusive, but I don't close the door onto finding them because I don't believe they have the same mindset as the ones that captured them. So I just want to say that because you can't just say, well, Black Americans are from West Africa and this and that. My maternal haplogroup don't even come from West Africa, y'all. So there's no straight fix to our history. There's a lot of nuances in there. So if we ask you to call us foundational Black Americans or Black American, please respect that and don't just label us West African because, you know,
Yeah.
nuances. Yeah, nuances.
Hmm.
That's a better way
Of
to
course,
put
of
it.
course. Thank you for that.
You're
Who was
welcome.
next was, let me see. I think it was that Overwatch guy, and then David. So that
And
Overwatch.
Shippo is a borderline troll. I'm sorry.
Matthew,
Shippo is a
Oh,
borderline troll, so it could go either way with Shippo.
okay.
Shippo could be very receptive
People is
and
that troll.
have
I
a
think it's
good
you. I don't know
conversation,
why you're talking about.
or he can
Oh my
troll
god,
us.
crazy.
Okay. Well,
Hmm
we're gonna get to
Leap,
that
can I ask you a
Overwatch
question,
guy.
brother?
We're gonna get to the Overwatch guy.
Can I ask you a question, brother Leap, before you go, if you don't mind?
Okay. Yeah. Real quick.
Just 2 seconds. Are we allowing other people outside of Black America to talk about Black Americans and our lineage and stuff?
Africans though. So then don't talk about Africans because you're talking about
Hold on,
Africans.
hold on, sir.
When you saying other people from outside of the lineage?
Yeah, I'm seeing all kinds of like YT and stuff on the panel. So I'm just asking, are we allowing like those people to talk about us and our lineage when the conversation about us? I'm just want to know how we.
Well, normally we do have an open panel where we allow people to chime in on different perspectives. Um, in this one in particular, because it's just such a thing within our community or whatever, it does need to have discussed. I mean, it does need to be discussed amongst ourselves. But to be honest, for people from the diaspora, I think them chiming in would add to the conversation because it allows us to understand that a lot of the gaslighting of us being indigenous, of us having any type of indigenous tie, does also come from the diaspora as well too. So
Yeah.
anytime we have these conversations, we have somebody who's from Nigeria or we have somebody who's from the diaspora, and they'll come in and they'll be all like, "Oh, why are you guys abandoning Africa? Why are you guys dismissing Africa? Why are you guys quote unquote hating on Africa?"
hmm No, I
So
wasn't talking about Apple. I'm talking about like Dad being. I think he's YT or something like that. David is.
That
Yeah, Dave YT. These guys are not like African or any melanated person. That's all. I was just a little curious of how we doing it.
we'll find out what he is. I'm not sure, but we'll find out what he is, and then we'll go along with that. We'll do it that way. We'll play it by ear that way. But that Overwatch guy, you got a Eurasian ethnicity, sir?
Okay, my bad. No, but I'm FBA all day. Just want to say hello to BX, hello to you, Afro. I listen to your panels so much, man, and I gotta agree with you. With the history itself, if we're going back to what the YTs put in the history books, what we all believe in, and just harping on that, I want to say we got to pay attention to what's being said and then also what's not being said. I got to say that speaking for me personally, with my lineage being on this land and then just personally doing the research, I have some, lineage within the Cherokee Indians and everything like that. So I would say it's weird because, yeah, we have some African lineage. That's true. That's there. But we're just an amalgamation of people. Like we've been mixed up, remixed, re-rocked, however you want to put it. And our presence here on this land is just always questioned, whether it be by the people from the diaspora, by the white people, or my bad, YT people that are here on this land. They want to kind of erase that, that presence from us. And I think it's just very strange. I didn't really know myself, my lineage and everything like that until I asked some of my elders and everything like that, like what went on, several generations before I came into the mix. And I had to ask a great aunt. And she was just like, hey, baby, you have Cherokee Indian. This is your grandmother. And I couldn't believe it until she showed me the pictures and everything like that. And I have them on my phone. And I'm like, dang, we actually are mixed with these people, with this heritage that we claim on this land isn't false. So for a lot of people to come in and be like, "Oh, well, you from West Africa or whatever like that," I feel like that's part of the story, but you're not telling the whole truth. And with that, I'm just gonna land and let you get to the next speaker, Afro.
Thank you for that. I mean,
Thank you.
a lot of that. Hold on. You got to, as you're coming up, you got to unmute. You got to mute yourself as you're coming up. So there's no, background noise or anything like that. Yeah, and this is why we have to have this conversation. And I'm glad we're able to have this and have mature adults. And if you disagree, you can come up and you can disagree. You can say that you don't think that makes sense, that you can say, you can disagree as long as you're respectful with it. Because this is a conversation that we've been having really for generations now. We've been having this conversation for generations where some people are like, no, we're all Indian, we're all Native Indian. Some people like, no, we're all from Africa. And you have not had a platform or somebody to host a platform where the conversation can be had on both sides respectfully. So that's what we're doing here. So if you're not going to be respectful, if you're going to troll, whatever the case is, you can leave. If you disagree with what I say, what somebody on the panel says, you can request to come up and you can speak, and we'll get to hear what you have to say. Now, with that being said, let's get to David Kitchen.
What up? What up? What up, BX? Hey,
Hey,
what's up?
David.
What's up, Afro? Hey, I've been keeping up
Doing?
with you here and there, bro. All the different platforms. But now it's a good conversation to have because one of the things that they have confused us about is we really, putting all these labels on us, man, misclassifying us. Like we been here, right? One of the things they don't never talk about for some reason, a lot of history channels, they never talk about the Americas. Like they could tell you what happened in Rome, you know what I'm saying, what they was eating and everything, but you can't tell me what happened 13, 1200, 1100 over here. What I'm saying is that we always been advanced here. And the thing about DNA is that DNA could say you have West African, but DNA doesn't tell you how long you've been at a certain place. Okay, it don't tell you you could been at a certain place for 5,000 years. It does 10,000 years. It doesn't tell you the length of time. It may tell you you got a matching blood type, but it doesn't say, hey, you've been at this place. It don't give you no time limit where you've been at. Okay, so the Americas have always been an advanced society. It ain't just got advanced because they brought people over here. That don't even make sense. Like the guy was saying about the boat ride, that's illogical. And one of the things that we got on our side is math. It has to be able to hold up to math. It has to be able to make logical sense. Saying that you bringing 20 million people over here, 2 months on a boat ride, 3 months on a boat ride, and you bringing them here, and yet they cannot find no sunken boats. The boats weren't even made for that, to transport people, okay? And when you look at it, you're talking about a small nation compared to how big this country is. People don't understand. Britain, Europe, these are small countries. You know how big America's is? So people think these small places just absolutely took over, ran roughshod over people, just came in and just stepped on everybody and just absolutely took over. No, that don't make logical sense. You understand? It doesn't. It got to hold up to math, period. So I just like to land with that, man. Listen, we are logically getting rid of all of these myths, okay? Because that's the thing we have on our side. It has to make sense, man.
Can I ask you, David?
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to get where you're coming from exactly.
Uh-huh.
Are you one to believe that there were no slave ships, that the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen, that there was no Middle Passage? Or
There's
are
one
you
thing.
believing that it didn't happen the way they said it happened?
One thing I believe that it don't happen like the way they say it happens. It's mathematically impossible to happen the way they say it happened. Okay, so it's either two things. It's a few things. It's either people came over here, or they came over here and changed, or they came over here voluntarily. Okay, we got to put that on the table. All right,
Okay.
because people have been traveling forever. So, but the whole slave chain down this that don't make mathematical sense.
Okay.
Period.
All right. I mean, okay. I just wanted to get your stance on that because you do have some people who are like, there were no slave trades. There was no slave ships. I mean, there were no slave ships whatsoever. And every black person who's here, every black American, Foundation Black American who is here is Aboriginal or indigenous, and there's no Africans came over. And then you have some that feel like there's a mix. So that's why I have African, Native, or both. You know what I'm saying? So
Right,
I
right.
just wanted
No,
to get your
right. I
stance
get you.
clear.
Right. What I'm saying is that you have to put everything on the table. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you say that they have brought people over here and changed. All right. You put that on the table. But another thing you could say is that people voluntarily came over here. You put that on the table also. Okay.
Hmm.
So, and that changes the whole narrative. I'm not saying people have not traveled over here, but the whole
Hmm.
forcing people over here, see, and chains and on boats, 500 on a boat, like, no. 500 people on a boat at a time, 36,000 trips, 26,000 trips across the Atlantic. Come on, people. Come on, 26,000.
Hmm.
That don't make sense. That's mathematically impossible. That's math. So that's what I like to say about that. But Americas have always been advanced, and this whole notion about these anglicized natives, right? You look at the
I'm
message,
gonna
right?
let you. I'm gonna let you say
Okay,
that.
okay.
Get a 30 seconds, and then
Okay,
have to
okay,
let others
gotcha.
get
But
in.
these Anglo, listen, what I'm saying is the Americas didn't start getting lightened up until colonization. It didn't start to lighten up in this part of the world until colonization. That's a fact. Okay, we have Juneteenth people in Mexico that they just started to put on the census. You got people in Argentina that they wiped out, dark skinned people, wiped them out
Hmm.
all throughout the South Americas, man. So this is the whole point. Like we've been here, man. That's what my thing. We've been here. We've been advanced, very advanced people here.
All
So
right.
I land with that.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you,
Who,
David. We're gonna
who's
move on. We're
next?
gonna get to Shippo was next.
Hello, guys. How are you?
We're good. How are
So
you?
good. So me, I'm Sub-Saharan African. I'm from Senegal. I'm Senegalese, okay? And I don't believe that Black Americans are indigenous. In my country, there's literally a place named Gorée Island, okay, dating back to the transatlantic slave trade. So there's literally a remnant of slavery. So I'm not going to say that slavery never happened and Black Americans have always been in America. I don't believe that theory. I'm sorry, it's just a conspiracy. I don't believe that. I believe that you guys came to the U.S. during the transatlantic slave trade. And okay, so if there were Black people in America before slavery, it would have helped a lot of people, not only Black Americans. It would have helped the entire diaspora. Like with all of us, we could have taken advantage of that. But like, there's no proof. Like, there's no substantial evidence, so I don't get it. So I don't know. But like, I do understand why a lot of you are desperately trying to convince people that no, we were already here because everything was stripped away from you. So you're obviously gonna try to convince yourself to persuade people that you've always been there. But I'm sorry, what proof do you have? None of you have been able to rebut that argument that you guys came to the US during the transatlantic slave trade. I'm sorry. And however, Black Americans have been here for so long. You've been here for hundreds of years. So I'm sorry, whether we like it or not, you're your own ethnic group. I'm not going to call you African. Nobody called you African. We just said you were of African descent. But like, you've been here for so long, you started from scratch, and you ended up becoming the most influential Black people on earth. So I'm sorry, but like, it's not because you're smarter than the rest of the diaspora. It's also because of American hegemony. You've been living in the wealthiest country ever for hundreds of years, so it also helps you. But I'm saying is, all you know is America. You were forcibly brought to the U.S., so I'm not gonna force Africa upon you. It's not fair. That's what you know. So now you're Black American, you're African American, whatever we call you. You're not Africans. You're of African descent. That's what I'm saying. So it's such a misunderstanding. when you guys get offended simply because we're saying that you're of African descent. We're not saying you're African, we're saying you're of African descent. And yes, you do have admixtures, but what I dislike is when people, first of all, the majority of you only have 0.3% to 0.4% of
Oh
indigenously.
God.
But some
How
of
do
you
you
go
know
around.
that, bro? Like,
But
bro,
some
Hold
of
on, hold
you,
on, hold
talking
on,
out
hold
your
on, hold on.
ass.
I'm,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
a,
my bad.
I was just about to. Okay, keep going.
After
okay, so
him,
what I was gonna say is like
Hold on.
I just hate when people have 0.3% or 0.4% of indigenously and they go around and they make it seem like, oh, it's their highest percentage. It's very ironic. How are you gonna claim your smallest percentage? Are you crazy? I'm sorry. Like I don't get it. Like it's just like
No,
ridiculous. And
that was
also
disrespectful.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
hold
my
on,
One
hold
turn
on.
now,
moment.
bro.
Let him go.
One
Let him
moment.
go.
One moment.
and
One
if you
moment.
were and
Everybody
if
got
you
to Everybody can't get off their mic at the same time.
when you were talking, I didn't cut you off, guys. Okay, and also if you were indigenous, the actual indigenous would have claimed you. Because I'm sorry, I came across a lot of indigenous people and they don't claim you. They're literally cursing you out on TikTok every day. So I don't know what you're talking about. A friend of mine, she's Cherokee. I asked her if Black Americans are indigenous. She said no. But like I said, we're not hating on you guys. I promise you, we wish there were Black people in America before slavery. But there's no proof. There's from an archaeology perspective, from whatever you want. There's no proof. I'm sorry. Like, prove me wrong.
Okay, I'm
It's
gonna
just
let you.
kind of
I'm gonna let you
crazy
land
that you
because you went
even
on a
say that.
long
It's my
rant.
turn, bro. It's
Okay,
my
Let's
okay,
just
turn,
go a
bro.
little
okay.
bit.
So, but
My turn.
like I said, however, I disagree when we call you African. It's not fair because I don't see them call the white people, oh, European American. Like I don't say that, you know. So it's just weird because we know how they got to the U.S. So why would we call you African American? But when it comes to white American, they're not being called European Americans. Like it's just weird. But yeah,
Hey,
you're all ethnic
Shifo, what
mix.
part of Africa are you from?
Yeah, but
He
let
said,
me. It's my turn, bro. It's
"Hold
my
on,
turn.
no, no. It's not. This the turn when I call you. I'll let you speak. Everybody's
Okay,
gonna do.
and yes, I'm
But
Senegalese.
I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry.
let you, Shippo. I got it. I got it. We all got it. Let me ask you this question though. You said that Black Americans have what less than 4%, 3% Indian DNA or Native DNA or whatever the case is
I
collectively,
said
right?
0.3. Like I said, you guys
Zero. You
are
said 0.3%.
0.3 to
Okay,
0.4%.
and you because you're bringing up proof that we don't have proof or whatever the case is. What is your proof that we have quote unquote 0.3% collectively? Not every single last, not one person or two person. Collectively, we only have 0.3% native DNA.
I mean, some studies have shown that on average, Black Americans mostly have 0.3%.
Studies have shown that on average, that's not true.
Yeah, okay,
That's
okay. I
not
mean,
true.
I
That's
can pull
not
up
true.
statistics.
Don't come up here and say something that's not true now.
Okay, prove me wrong though. What statistic do you have?
Which
Studies,
studies are
I
you
can look it up
referring
right
to,
now.
sir?
Studies have shown
Go ahead. Prove.
0.3 is barely anything. You're making that up.
Now,
That's
go
not.
ahead. Show me.
There's
Show
not a
me.
single study that says 0.3 collectively that found that 40 million, 42, what, how many, like 42 plus million people have 0.3% Nate. That's not true. Come on now, don't lie.
I'm not
You
lying.
making it up.
That's what I see. That's what I saw.
What
That's what you, nah,
study
that's,
are you
you didn't say,
referencing?
hold on, stop, hold on, y'all, hold on. You didn't say that was an assumption. You said it as if it was a fact. Everything you're saying here is as if it was a fact.
Yes,
You
it's
didn't say I
exactly.
assume. You don't give a DNA percentage of a collective group of people and say I assume this is their DNA percentage. You said it as if this is a scientific fact that has been proven to disprove any claim of indigenous history here.
Okay, so me.
Okay, and then you're saying that because in your homeland that there's proof that there is a slave trade or a slave trade did happen, that means that there's proof that um, there were no black people here before. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said, okay, first of all, like I said, you guys were taken from Central and West Africa, and my country is located in West Africa. So it was part of the transatlantic slave trade. I'm just saying that you guys, there's a place named Goree Island, and a lot of slaves were taken to Goree Island and then shipped overseas. I'm saying that, like, if you go there, they're going to literally tell you that it dates to it dates back to the transatlantic slave trade. So I'm just saying, like, it's just, so me personally, I went there a bunch of times, so
I
I
mean,
know slavery
okay,
happened.
but to be fair, I don't. Nobody on this panel. We've had several people on this panel. Nobody on this panel has denied that a slave trade ever happened, ever existed. Nobody yet has denied that that's ever existed. But you
Okay,
have
but you're telling me that I'm lying.
people
So
today. Hold on. No, I'm not saying that what you're saying is untrue, but what you're saying doesn't refute the point, because a slave trade happening doesn't refute black people's claim of being native. Okay. Now I'm here to have an open panel on this because I have people's claim of being native. Okay. Now I'm here to have an open panel on this because I have an opinion, but I'm here to have an open panel on this, so we're gonna have to move on. But Shippo, we got your point. We got your point.
Can I speak? Can I speak to the DNA real
Afro,
quick?
1 minute, y'all. 1 minute. Cause Afro, somebody in the comments had asked for a debate. I commented this is just a discussion between FBA and American Indians, so the two communities can find a common ground. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not
Thank you.
here to have a debate. It's just something that I've been noticing, and I'm gonna use this example. I am a foundational Black American, and I see when American Indians have their genealogy up, some of them have the same surnames as some of my ancestors. So that shows me that at one point in time, we've our ancestors have come into contact.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really reveal my genealogy, but I don't let anybody disparage the American Indians, such as calling them pretendians, because I never know when I'm going to see my first cousin standing on their indigeneity based off of our grandmother's maternal history, family history. So this isn't a debate, guys. It's just a conversation so the two communities can find a common ground so that we don't disparage each other on these apps.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it,
I
Afro.
wanted.
Me too.
I just
This
wanted to
this
speak
isn't
to.
this isn't me trying to debate nobody. You know, because if it was a debate, I would have set it up as a debate. I didn't. I set this up as an open panel where people can respectfully um join in. Look,
Yeah, I just wanted to. Can I speak
I
to the
will
DNA
say
test?
something.
Oh,
There's been people who've been waiting before you join the panel. To everybody who's joining the panel, okay. Everybody else can wait their turn. If you cannot, if you don't have the time to wait your turn, maybe you need to come back another time. All right, respectfully. But we will get to you. But you're not gonna join and then cut the line. There's been people who've been waiting because when people do that in other rooms that I don't allow happen in here, when people do that, now you have other people who don't get a chance to speak. They'll wait an hour and a half and they never get a chance to speak. So when it's your turn, we're going to go in order, and when it's your turn, your name will be called and you'll be able to say what's on your mind. All right. Um let me get you real quick. Let's get to dad being a father. Dad being a father, going once, going twice. Dad being a father is not with us. All right. So, with that being said, I guess we get to
yeah, I wanted to kind of hit on the. Oh, go ahead. My bad, brother.
you. I'll give you 30 seconds, and then we'll get to the Indian red.
All right, no problem. In regards to the DNA test, understand that the numbers that you can kind of play around with, they play around with. That's why they put estimates on there. And it's estimates for a reason, right? Because they can play around with it. Also, it says for entertainment purposes only on the DNA test. Now, if you're going to utilize the DNA test is good for matching people, right? Same thing with forensics. When you want to find that someone unalive somebody, you match with them when it comes to that DNA. Same thing with paternal DNA test. When you want to find a baby father, baby mom, they don't show numbers. They show the matches between, right? So if you're looking at DNA tests and you're looking at those numbers, the numbers is just numbers. That this is how they fool people the bodies tests, and this is why you can't go to court and say, "Hey, these are my numbers." And a lot of tribes don't even accept the numbers for the DNA test, right? You have to have genealogy for some of these tribes. So when people try to say, "Well, 1% and you have this," well, that's child's play when it come down to the DNA test. And I'll land on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I mean that's true. I'm gonna speak on that, but I'm gonna let everybody in the panel speak first. So let's get to Indian red.
Greetings. Give thanks to
Real quick,
everybody.
what's your racial category and ethnicity?
I identify as an American, or for people that's illiterate, an American Indian.
Okay, all right.
I know my clan, my tribe, our territory, and like I was saying, respects to everybody here. Give thanks. Um, the other person who was speaking, this is the thing. It's so many record keeping, so many primary sources pertaining to the peoples that was here before any boats come here. So when he was saying there is no evidence, and it's the other thing too, you know, when you really American, you understand that you're an extension of this land. So you don't really resonate, you don't really identify with misnomers from troglodytes, from RH, from beasts. These beasts don't give you your identity. So we don't identify as a color. Colors are beautiful, but we don't identify our identity is not an adjective, making us neither a person, place, or thing. But my point is the lie that there is no evidence that there was a people that was excavated at all the Temple Mount sites from Ohio to the Yucatan. That's a lie. And these artifacts, anthropologists and archaeologists know that the people that they excavated are in no relation to Mongoloids, to Inuits, to Siberians, to Mestizos, to the beast of Ethiopia, to the original Anglo-Saxons that are not Neanderthals, that are not troglodytes. That's a lie. It's a lot of evidence that shows that we predate the people that come here on Ellis Island or Angel Island. We predate these people, and that's just the truth. So that's all I want to say. I think they reject the lie. I mean, they reject the truth intentionally for whatever entities that they run with. The Revelation 2939 people that they serve. I think that's why they reject the truth. But there's a lot of truth. That was saying, give thanks to everyone.
Okay. Let me ask you real quick. Do you believe the slave trade happened at all, or do you not think it happened at all?
I was talking with my cousin. She's a genealogist expert. So this is RH person that established the slavevoyages.org website. He put all the documents and records pertaining to voyages. It's voyages that not didn't only happen from west. So to answer your question, do I believe it happened? Yes, but pertaining to North America, less than 4%. The number always changed, just like with the Revelation 2939 people. But what we can prove is roughly 198,000. And then when they get into the time where the voyages was supposedly coming over here, it was only for so many years. I believe it was less than like 40 years. I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't indefinitely that they could just that they was doing that. So I do believe it happened, but they trying to make it seem like it was 96% when it was really 4%. And everybody else that was prisoners of war were domestically arrived. That's what's documented. That they saying it's not, but it is.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to get your stance on it. You know, because some people will deny the slave trade disappearance.
It did, but that's not the basis of our existence. We're immemorial. This anthropologist, she's from Canada. She got all the degrees, got all of the to do it right. And she was excavating a site in Mexico. They thought the site, and they use all these different strategies to determine the age of the site, not just one. When it's always cross referenced and it has to reinforce the other. So they thought the site was 20,000 years old, and that was a big deal at the time. But come to find out, the site was much older than what they thought. And the peoples, the mestizos that claim that they are the people, are in no relation. They're related to Lucia. They're related to the astroloid and negroloid group. And I'm gonna end it on this. You have identical twins, same mother and father. They send their stuff off. They completely different ethnicities. It's people that swab their horses, they bearded lizards, they chihuahuas. It come back as 20% Polish, 10% Sapardine, 5% Portuguese. So the ethnicity is not, it's for entertainment purposes only, and people taking that and using that as if it's valid, and that's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
Yeah, well, appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Let's get to Burner Rogers. What's your race and ethnicity, please? And what's on your
First of all,
mind?
thank you for letting me come up here and speak. I am half African American and half Dominican. So I just want to speak on a couple things that I continuously see in these panels, and it's kind of like I knew it was going to end. I knew it was going to end up on this, and on these points. One, when we get to talk about 1492, why I'm just confused why African Americans as a whole believe that that is our history, our history to begin with, right? That is Caribbean Hispanic history, right? Columbus settled the first permanent settlement in the New World is Santo Domingo, which is now the Dominican Republic, the capital. When he talks about the inference of copper colored people, one that was never said, there's no record of that ever saying. Everyone references the journals, and I keep on telling people, look, Bartolomé de las Casas wrote in those journals. He said nothing of the sorts. What he did said, they paint themselves black. They have hair short and coarse, almost like a horse's tail. They're neither black or white. They are the color of the Canary Islanders. That is verbatim what was said. Nothing about being black, nothing about being copper tone, copper color, never said. So that's my first point. I don't understand why there's a reference of Columbus in any way, shape, or form when having this discussion, because it has nothing to do with what is now North America. That's one. Two, what is very funny about this is most of this ideology stems from Ivan van Sertima and the Olmec civilization theory. Again, this is a civilization that has apparently existed in Mexico, southern Mexico, closer to Panama and Guatemala right now. What's interesting is, why would Black Americans believe this had anything to do with us, right? Like, that is a civilization that existed in southern Mexico, right? So, again, contextually, why would that have anything to do with us? That's first. Two, here is a Guyanese man who anybody from Guyana on these panels talking about Ivan Van Sertima, you couldn't find one Guyanese person who even knows who he is, because his theories have no historical primary sources, and he only could sell that in America to who? Us, right? Like, you can't. No, this is the problem. No one else, where these places that this stuff actually happened, are having these discussions. No one is. You can't find the Mexicans like, the Olmec civilization, right? And that's their ancestors. Like, it's their ancestors. So it's weird. What's happened is what I call American exceptionalism. It's the need to be first. And that supersedes all logic, all historical records, all historical context. It's just that, hey, we're Americans and we're first, when we know that's false. 99% of the people on this panel right now have an English surname, an Irish surname, a Scottish surname, some variant of that. There's a reason for that, because the trafficking of African slaves to what is now the United States happened in 1619, about 200 years after what happened in what is now the Caribbean islands. So it's just interesting how people are going back and completely appropriating other histories. It contextually it makes no sense. Historically, it makes no sense. And all the proof that people throw out here, it stems from a Guyanese man. Like, so we have people that believe like, hey, you're not even sourcing scholars from FBA, from Black Americans. You're sourcing a scholar, or not. I wouldn't call him a scholar. You're sourcing a guy who had a theory from Guyana.
Well, and I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm gonna land on that.
But I'm just gonna say, I don't know how long you've been listening, but nobody from the time we started to right now, nobody has brought up the Olmecs, and nobody has brought up Ivan Van Sertima. Nobody's you're the first person to bring them up. I'm just, maybe you think that of course they're taking from his theory or whatever, and maybe you don't know, but just so you can have the context that nobody's brought them up in this conversation until now.
Yeah, he created his own arguments to be right. So the thing is, have you been to?
Yeah, I did.
Let's let him finish. Let's let him finish.
Okay, no problem.
My bad. I did hop in here a little late, but I did touch on that because I just wanted to make a point that all the points that are being made about Africans being here first, or African civilizations, African presence, there is nothing that proves what is being said. There's nothing. Even when you source every Hernando de Soto down in Mississippi, right? Even when you source that stuff, I mean, I can read off exactly what was said. Nothing comes back to copper colored, African, black. Nothing comes back to those specific terms used to describe people who were present and who they encountered.
Okay. Okay. I mean, and that's your stance on it. That's your opinion. This isn't a debate. This is just to have an open panel. So um you can believe that. Now let me ask you this though. What proof do you need to verify, not to say that every single foundational Black American is native or indigenous, but that there were any at all Black people here, or people who would classify under the racial category as Black, that there was any of us that existed here prior to slavery? What proof would you need to see?
Well, there would have to be some type of documentation, right? So you have just any documentation, verified documentation. What is being said that, hey, we existed here prior to these people coming here to colonization, and magically our primary language is English. We have no native or no original language. So that's the funny thing. We know colonization happened in Africa. They went into Nigeria and took slaves. They went into Benin and took slaves. Ghana and took slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I just named has an indigenous language that they speak. That wouldn't have been erased in 200 years. That wouldn't have been erased in 300 years. So how does that happen? How does that happen?
You
Are
can
you
erase
aware of the
somebody's
shadow of
indigenous.
slavery,
You
my
can
guy?
you can erase
200,
somebody
300
off
years of
those
slavery can erase somebody's language. I
that
don't understand
yeah,
how you.
you can
But
lose
listen,
you can lose
but let
speaking
me
your
ask
language.
this, because
Excuse me,
we
hold
do
on,
want to
excuse me.
keep the we
Let
do
me
want to
make this
keep
one
the
point.
panel flowing. Hold on, I just
Let
want
me
to
yeah, my bad.
follow up with this question. So you're saying that in order for you to believe that there were any Black natives here, Black Indians, natives, indigenous here, there would need to be documented proof that would verify that we were here prior to slavery.
100%. It's that simple.
Okay, and that's the only way you would believe it.
That's the only way I would believe that.
Okay, and who would be the one documenting that?
I would hope again that who would be the one documented. So we're saying that people were here and magically no one documented anything about themselves prior to
Hold on, no,
and no one wrote it down.
we can agree that there were people here, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And they documented them being here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Spaniards
So I mean, there are
primarily.
documents that there were people here, but
Yes.
you're saying that you want documents that the people who were here
No.
resemble. What do you want to see in the documents?
No, I said I want any it doesn't matter who documents it. I want verified documents that prove that people of African descent were here prior to colonization. It's that simple. That's a
Hey,
very
listen, he
point.
want
That's a
he
very
he
point.
want white people to tell him that.
No,
Okay, if it ain't
no,
coming from white
no.
people, it ain't coming
Anyone,
from nobody. All right.
anyone,
Bro, there are so many
any.
documents. It's just kind of funny
Okay.
because Afro's letting you
So
go on with this spiel, but I gotta tell you, player, there's so many documents that
send
are
me.
out
My
here,
DMs are
and you
open.
over here sounding
My
like,
DMs are
bro, you're
open.
so obtuse.
My
It's
DMs are
like,
open.
are
I'm
you being
trying.
obtuse willfully?
This whole
Like,
time, I'm just trying to get where his standard is, because he's like, show me documented proof that there were people here. Show
We
me
have that.
documented proof that there were people of African descent here. So what do you want the documents to say? That they were these people? You wanted them to have like a census form of how many, or like um a previous address? Like I'm not trying to joke, but I'm
No,
trying
no,
to
no,
be
no,
all
no,
like, what
no.
do you want the
I get
documents
what you're saying. I
from?
get what you're
Because
saying.
this happened. Hold on. According to history, American history, slavery happened in 1619. Started in 1619. So you want us like, who do you want it from, and what exactly do you want? Like a previous address of somebody who's now native saying that they used to live in West Africa? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not.
so yeah, I mean, I got you making a joke here because I'm being very point, and you can't answer that in a
No,
complete
no,
sentence.
I'm saying, because you're
So let
saying
me
you
let me
want
let me tell you what
documents.
I want.
Hold on, don't do that. Because I'm saying you want documents, and it seems like every time I'm asking you, your answer of what you need to believe is very vague. And I've been asking you and letting you go on for a minute, and I'm not understanding exactly what point of evidence that you need. So let's not get in that. Let's not do
So,
that now.
so let me explain 100%. This is very as clear as I can be.
Uh-huh.
We have documentation that people were here. No,
Okay.
we have no. I'm asking you a question. We have
Yeah,
documentation that
yeah.
people were here.
Yeah.
Who documented that? Europeans, right?
Well, there are people who were here and had civilizations
I
before.
got it. I got it. But who documented that there were people here?
There were Europeans who also documented that people were here.
Okay, so there were Europeans that also documented here. What? Why can they can say, hey, these people look like these people that they have referenced, Siberians? Hernando de Soto specifically said these people look like Siberians. Specifically said that people look like Siberians. So he has an idea of what those people look like. You have
They didn't.
Fernando de Ayon in South Carolina. What did he say? He said these were white men. He said these are white men. So the reference that a lot of you guys use, you guys obviously don't use it or read it. He says these are white men that we talk about the natives there. That's
Hey,
verbatim what he said.
do you know how
Right?
vast? Do you
You
know how
said you
big
saying
this
that
country
you
is?
saying that natives were white men? Is that what
I'm
you?
gonna no, I'm not saying this. I'm telling you one of the earliest documented.
The lies,
Documented.
the
Do you
lies,
believe that
I'm
that's
gonna
true?
send it to you. I'm
lies.
gonna send it to you. It's
And,
not
and
that.
I believe that he. I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Do you believe that that's true?
It's not what I believe. I'm telling you what was written down.
Because
What
here's
was
my
written
thing
down.
is because you debunked any theory that came from Ida Van Sertima, and you said that, oh, y'all using the Olmecs and Ida Van Sertima, and that's not verified to be true. And yet you're saying because a white man said that there were white natives here, European natives here.
No, 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 no. So here's the funny thing where I'm debunking Ivan Van Sertima. Who is Ivan Van Sertima referencing? He's referencing the people I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. The references that you guys get from Ivan Van Sertima is exactly what I'm talking about. You just said you guys have never read it.
Negro,
You
there are
have never
so
read
many
it.
You
logs
confused,
of
bro.
Okay,
Okay,
travelers.
so here's what I'm gonna do.
okay, we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
have
send
a
it. I'm gonna send this to
panel.
Afro Elite.
Hold on, brother. Okay,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
send it to
give you
Afro
30
Elite.
seconds. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds so you can, wrap up your
Yep.
stance, and then I'm gonna let other people. Well, actually, I gotta let
Yeah, I
Red Eye
appreciate it.
go,
Yeah,
and then I'm
and
gonna
I
let
want to
other
say
people
before you
respond.
let me wrap up. Hey man, you one of the best hosts that I've seen.
Oh,
Props to
thank you.
you. I'm gonna send you everything that I have, everything that I can find, primary sources, which Ivan Versertima didn't provide, and that's why his theory never took off in academia because he never
Okay.
provided it. And once you start looking into those primary sources, you can be like, wait a minute, that was never said anywhere. So I'm gonna provide you those things. And Copper Color She-Hulk said, boy, bye. Again, Copper Color is not real. It was never stated by anyone, anywhere, in any documents. So
Okay.
I'm gonna land on that. Thank you. I'm gonna send you everything I got.
All right. All right. Let's get to Red Eye because we had enough time just back and forth. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance, and then I know all of y'all have. And let me see, DH hasn't speak. I know all of y'all have a response. So be real quick. Let's be real quick about this. Let me see. Red Eye, you got it. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. What's your race and ethnicity, please, sir? And then you can go ahead.
I am African American, 43. Live in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. What's your opinion on the prompt, sir? Real quick.
Okay, I'll be honest. Far as I know from history and from what my people talk about, what other people talk about, what we can find in other countries, the African continent, there was a lot of explorers from the west, the east, the south, just everywhere, and they used to travel a lot. And from what I've been taught here in the U.S., from grade school all the way through pieces of college, do not trust what the white tea tells you. Understand that some of those events are real, but understand that they will fudge paperwork in order to make the scales weigh properly. So I'm not declining that slavery happened. I'm not even declining that there was a settlement of African travelers here on the East Coast? Because I've heard stories, and there are some literature in certain places that you can find where the faces look black, but they're not describing anybody. Just the simple foundation of the United States being born in 1776, and everybody's believing that George Washington was the first president, but there's evidence of 12 other people before that, and the skepticism is they may have been white, or they could have been of African American slave descent. We don't know. I will never know unless somebody from a different country, a different region where they know that their people tells the truth and that they could have never been bought to fudge paperwork or anything else. Because as far as my family has traced back, and my sister went to TSU, Tennessee State University, it's a historically black college. She traced our lineage. We have 60 some odd percent of Ghana, West African, sub-Saharans, a couple other things, and even our YT masters, who we trace down our plantation from Louisville and such. They come from Ireland, and we trace all the way back to their indentured servants, which were African, or I guess you can say or Moorish. I'm not for sure. I'm really not for sure. So don't kill me for it. But I don't believe my people are just stuck on Africa and the rest of these countries are giving us paintings. They're giving us literature with black faces on them. Like, I understand the Moors traveled and other races traveled, and when you mix our African roots with any other color in this world, that skin color becomes almond, or it becomes light almond or pecan. The longer it sits in the sun, it gets a little darker. The longer it stays out of the sun, it gets a little lighter. All these races, like I'm looking for answers. And I know for a fact that YT has lied to me through history of high school and all that other stuff. And there is new evidence coming out. But with that evidence, can we just be black? I mean, not black, African altogether, and understand that these are our American brethren were severed from the root of what was our ancestry? Far as we know, in my family, it came down to tracing our roots back to a tally mark. So we don't even know what tribe, what country from West Africa truly we came from, what region. Even if it was from Ghana, West Africa, we could have been from East Side. We don't know. But all we know is that it came down to a tally mark. So if y'all could just keep this dialogue going and just peacefully, like y'all have been, and just keep the I guess the playful banter back and forth, to where we can actually get somewhere and help some of us Americans solve this problem of certain identity crisis. And I just want to leave y'all with this. Me personally, I am an African American male. The only reason I say that, because I know my roots go back to Africa, and there is nothing else that details me that I am anything other than that. Okay. Except for some mixtures over the generations with Native Americans, such as Blackfoot, Chickasaw, and Cherokee. Okay. Those three do have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Got one question, and I know you're wrapping up and everything like that, but I got one question. You say, can't we all be African, or just be African, and then like what is that? What are you trying to say? What does that mean?
Well, what that means is understand that YT will lie to all of us across this African spectrum just so they can keep us apart.
Okay.
Am I? You feel what I'm saying with that? I'm just trying to keep it plain and simple. I don't want no arguing. I don't want to get.
I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to get.
No. I know. I'm talking for everybody on the panel, to just so they understand where I'm coming from. I'm just saying in the generality. Just like the camaraderie we having right now in this conversation where I've been listening to y'all actually have communications as adults, giving information back and forth, taking turns listening. I'm enjoying this because I'm learning at 43, where I know that some of my history, I should hit the reset button on it and actually start to listen to some more of these conversations like y'all having right now. So I just appreciate everything that y'all doing right now.
Okay.
Thank you. May I ask him a question? Did you say you did your genealogy, not the DNA test, but the actual genealogy?
My twin sister did. a genealogy and a DNA testing. The genealogy was on our I guess I don't know how to say this, but our slave white T side, and it traced all the way back to Ireland, Southern Ireland, where in those records there were known to be I don't know how to say this without being disrespectful, but I guess evidence of Moorish people or people with headdresses, not as in turbans, but as in almost like pharaoh-like headdresses,
Irie
and
people.
they were either chased out of there or made to be indentured servants.
You talking about the Irie people, the original melanated Irish people.
Yeah, and it's like it dates back to a similar story. I can't remember it. My sister actually has it for her dissertation, but the story of St. Patrick's Day isn't really what it is, and it's like a little darker than what people understand. If you understand that there are no
Yeah,
snakes in Ireland.
we right. Um, okay, I was just wondering if somebody asked in the chat. So I just want to remind everybody that I asked not to use the word pretendian. It is offensive, right? For the simple fact that while I may be a genealogist, I didn't do everybody in the room's genealogy. So I can't tell them necessarily who they are. I can ask questions to determine if they're foundational Black American or not. So I'm pretty much taking y'all for your word. Also, I noticed the room is getting a little fuller. It's 138, 39 people in the chat. Please continue to tap the screen, share the live, be respectful. Also, you may recognize me from other panels. Here, Afro pretty much allows everyone, as long as they're respectful, to use their voice. But please don't play with me, okay? So, because I'm going to be nice until you play with me. So I do recognize some who could be trolls. This is your opportunity to use your voice, but do so respectfully, even in the chat when you're typing it out. Okay, that's why I asked not to use the word pretending. It is offensive, and we don't want to offend nobody. We want to keep the conversation moving, and I don't want to be distracted on whether I should mute you, block you, or drag you in the comments. So let's be clear. Let's be nice. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
And
Afro. Go ahead.
I just
And
wanted
I
to
do
add
find
this,
it
right?
that
I
is a
just
little
want to add
racist
this.
too. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to add this about DNA because I keep hearing people say DNA traces back to Africa. People need to understand DNA does not tell you how long you've been at a certain location. You could trace back to Africa, but you could have been in America 50,000 years. It doesn't, that does not tell you how long you've been at any location, people. So we need to understand that about DNA.
I'm
Exactly.
a,
DNA does
That's
not
I'm
tell
a,
you that.
I'm gonna let
I
hold
believe
on. I'm
oh, go ahead.
ready. I'm gonna let you. You pretty much you wrapped up, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to let.
I just want to say one last thing. I do believe our people travel, and I do believe that some may have traveled to the Americas. Who knows? To escape oppression from their tribe or whatever.
Uh,
And we know how war happens when you want to take over something. And I do know that most tribes in almost every country, they send the women and children away while the men stay and fight, no matter they win or they lose. They try to preserve what they have through the women and children. And like I can see Africans from in America doing that same thing, but then white tea, doing what they do, track down and then enslave.
okay.
You
All
know what
right.
I mean? So I mean, there's a possibility. I don't know that for a fact, but there's your stories. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I want to let people get you before we lose too much, before we go too far. I want to let people get to comment on. I think his name was Burner Rogers. I
Yeah.
know foundational. You had something you wanted to add, and then the Overwatch guy. A lot of y'all had something you guys wanted to add. Now Burner Rogers, I think his name was. He's not here, or at least he's not in the panel anymore. But you guys wanted to retort to what he had to say, so I'm gonna let you guys do that before we get too far along, and then we're gonna continue.
So real quick, see, a lot of people like to talk about Guatemala, Mexico, and all these places, and try to talk about the Olmecs and all these other places and other things and the Aztecs. But I actually went there, as you can see. I traveled to these places. I've been with the native Mayans, the native people from these places, right? And so when I went over there, they called me Indio. They called me Indio, right? And it's not that they got me confused because there was an African man next to me. It was like him African, you Indio when I was over there, right? So now let me show you another thing. He talked about the first what did the he wanted to see people what the YT said because he got to see it from the YT, right? Well, John in the 1600s wrote in the book America being the accurate description of the New World in 1671. He said that the natives were blackish, right, compared in the hair color to the Ethiopian. So there's a clear description between Ethiopian Africans and the American Indians, right? He said he compared them, but he know there's a difference. Benjamin said, noted in his writing that many Southeastern, which we talk about, see, the problem is a lot of the people, they think of the Western Plains Indians. Those are the people with the headbands, the regalia, right, that dance around. They think of those guys, but they don't understand that J.P. Morgan paid $75,000 to a photographer to stage to make that face the face of Native or American Indians, right? So the second gentleman talked about the people that have quote unquote African features. Benjamin Smith. Another gentleman, James, in the 1700s, is a Scottish trader, historian, talked about the Cherokee, the Choctaw, right? He talked about the people looking like us, the complexion of the Moors. If you look at the Moors, how the Moors look, anybody that had melanated skin look like the Moors. And I got more because he said, give me some sources. So I got a few YT people because a lot of people like to hear the YT because the YT is their God and they don't like to see what another melanated person say something. This gentleman, De La Casa, I don't want to push his name in the 1400s. He talks about how these Central American natives, he described them as the black like those of Guinea, right? William, he talks about his travels and he talked about dark-skinned native peoples and noted African-looking traits in Seminole and Creek Nation, right? And then this is before the so-called runaway slave thing. So he talks about that before that even happened. So we're not talking about no runaway slave. And slave don't mean African, by the way. We got Gonzalez over here in between the 1400 to 1557. It's kind of blocked right there, but I can get that up for you. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Is that right there? Is that it? No, we skipped Gonzalez, but we'll come back to Gonzalez. We got Fernandez in the 1400 to 1557. He talked about dark-skinned people in the Caribbean, and he said sometimes confused with Africans, but know that they are natives, right? John Lawson, right? Again, all YT people, because we know y'all love the white, not you, but a lot of people love to hear from the YT man. So we got you. I made sure I got some nice, YT for you. John Lawson, he said that his new voyage to Carolina, he said they are black as any African, right? And so we could keep it going. We got Pedro, right? He wrote about indigenous people in the Caribbean and parts of the South America with black skin and woolly hair. Be clear, woolly hair. And the brother earlier brought up coarse hair. If you type in coarse and put it in the search, because he said, well, the brother said coarse. If you type in what coarse hair look like, you let me know the image that you see. So now we got Captain Jonathan is blocked. Let me get that real quick. Hold on. Try not to be too long-winded, but I'm bringing the sources because it's too much people playing games with us, and they got to see it from the YT. Captain Jonathan Carver said that the natives of Upper Mississippian region were black skin and sometimes confused them with escaped African slaves, but concluded they're indigenous. Why would they be confusing them if they wasn't American, if they wasn't African? If they look at the native to today, there's no way you can confuse a native of today and any of us on this panel. So why would he be confusing them with that of African? Now you can say that us today, some people may say we look like African, so it makes sense. So now number 10, right? Alexander told in his personal narrative of travels talked about how he know that some tribes in the Amazon had quote unquote African features and black skin. And there's more. I'm not going to be too long with it. But the problem is a lot of these people, they come on these panels and they don't know what they're talking about, right? We got to understand, even if you want to go with the quote unquote African quote unquote thing, right? We got to understand there's a native chief. I think he's a chief. His name is J. Winter Blackwolf. And he talks about in his oral stories, 50,000 years ago, Phoenicians came to the Americas way before the Native Americans. Now, I want to make something real clear, and I promise you, I'm dropping after this, Afro. Let me make something real clear. There's nothing that a native have that a so-called Black American wants. I'm gonna say that one more time. There's nothing that a native have that a so-called Black American want. We are the trendsetters of the world, so it's not clout. We are the richest melanated people in the world. We do 1.9 or 2.6 trillion dollars. They only do a couple of hundred a billion, so it's not money. It's not land because all a Black American have to do is do their genealogy and find their land patents. So that and the land that they own, they don't even own it. It's on a federal. Is it owned by the federal government, YT, in a federal trust? We don't want no glorified EBT and housing card, aka the tribal card, from a YT that's telling us whether we native or not. And then your native identity expires every couple of years from that card. We don't want that neither, right? We don't. On a lot of these reservations, the reservations is 20 times the national average in crime. So we don't want to go on your reservations. They'll be consume the crime. They make Chicago, they make Detroit, and all these places look like the King Coons. How bad it is, right? And I could keep going on all the horrible things. We do not want nothing from a native. All we want is the truth, right? And so let's be clear when it comes through to this conversation. And I'm gonna land on that. I wish y'all the best. Nate talk. I took my Isha Chikicha. Peace a lot, Chiki. I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you, Afro, as always.
May I
Appreciate
ask a
you.
question? May I ask a question real quick to y'all? Am I wrong when I understand that history has taught us that the so-called Native American signed over his rights that way he could have the reservations?
Oh wow. I
Um,
believe they were
yeah,
they conformed
Listen,
with
yeah,
the
they
five
conform.
civilized
Yeah, that was
tribes.
them. That was them five civilized. There you go, BX. I'll
Yeah,
let BX tell
yeah.
you.
He
they
was
don't
given.
own no. They don't own no land at all. That land that they own is on. It's owned by the federal government in a trust. They don't even own the land that they own, right? When you do your genealogy and you find your ancestors' land patent, that land you get from doing your genealogy, that's your ancestral land, and that can be passed down generation to generation. You don't need a tribe or a treaty, right? And so understand you are heirs to this land. But our people have to do a genealogy and find their ancestors' land, start kicking people off their land. And that's all I'm going to say, family. I love y'all. Chiholo Leche. Peace a lot, Chiki.
Priest, brother. Thank you.
Oh, well, hold tight. Isn't that the same reason
Hold
for
on,
the?
hold on,
Go. I'm sorry. Go.
hold on, because we got three more people who haven't spoken one time yet, so we want to be
Yeah,
fair.
I apologize. I
Can I
apologize.
say something, Afro?
All
I
right.
want to make sure that I'm correct. So I noticed when we have this conversation with the American Indians, the Caribbean enters the chat. So are we doing that tonight? Because I believe the focus is on the United States of America and our American Indians as opposed to the Caribbean and their indigenous population, their Indians. It sort of shifts the focus, and right now I want to come to a common ground with the United States of America first. The borders are up if you need a green card to get here. And I understand the intra-America slave trade. I understand, especially living in New York, that enslaved people were taken from here and sent to the Caribbean, and likewise. I understand it. Tonight ain't that night. I'm going to come to a middle ground with the USA American Indians, whatever tribes is here within our borders. Are you in agreement, Afro, or are we allowing them to shift the focus to the Americas as opposed to America?
I do think for the sake of having a real cohesive conversation, we should stay focused on North America. Now we can have another live, maybe another time, and we can expand that because the Caribbean, I hear that conversation happen often with them too. But for the sake of right now, with the pace and where we're going and everything like that, I think it's best to stay focused on North America right now. Foundational Black Americans in our claim,
Thank you.
and then maybe if you guys, I can tell you guys are interested, then we can have another panel and then talk about Black people being here at all prior to Columbus. But this
Afro
is
Elite.
just
That
specifically talking about this.
the lady
One,
next to
1 minute.
BX, she's an African.
Right.
Oh, she is.
She's a little problematic at times. There's 136 people in the chat. His likes are low. Please tap the screen, especially if you identify with FBA and recognize who Afro Elite is. Get these likes up. Click the heart by his name. Complete the daily mission. My goal is to get Afro over here more often. He prefers YouTube. So personally, I always at the end of the show say, Afro, when are you coming back? When can we expect another live? Honestly, do you? There are lives who are, controlled, calm. We don't get too, uprooted, but it could go left. So far, Afro is batting 100. We don't
Thank you,
really
thank
go
you.
left. So please, guys, get the likes up for Afro Elite. Show some appreciation for the platform. Thank you.
My my name was mentioned. I'm
Okay.
problematic when I'm
Yeah.
disrespected.
Yeah, I said that. I said that.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I know. I
That's
know.
fine. Please go on
Okay.
mute. We'll address it when he
All
says
right.
it.
Please don't mention my
We'll
name.
address it.
Thank you.
To get off the panel, honey, because I'm a mod.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
mod
Don't
here.
cry. Please
And I
don't
keep the
start that
order.
problem. Yeah, for real.
Now you're from the Caribbean, right, ma'am?
No, I'm 100% African.
See
You were
that
born
there?
in
Go on
Africa.
mute,
You were
please.
born in Africa.
Yes, I was
Okay.
born in
Both
Africa,
of your
but
parents are
raised.
African.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this is an awkward conversation for you to be in then?
No, I'm always on these conversations.
Right,
Okay.
that's the issue.
Hello.
You're
Okay.
African, ma'am. We're talking
Oh,
about
okay.
Black
So this is not about
Americans and our
Africa.
indigeneans. And hold on. Go on mute, please. Go on
No,
mute.
this panel,
Hold on.
because there's a lot of people
Apple, did
who.
you hear that? 100. I'm 100% African. So the other day we were on a live, and she told us we were her daughters or some mess. That she's the original blueprint. She's fully African. So she's going to be the type to drag our admixtures, not understanding the disrespect of it, because her people sold ours into captivity and they were great. So, ma'am, I don't owe you any loyalty. I'm not your daughter. I evolved past the
Okay,
continent, and
well
that's why you're
let's
here
to
So
getting
continue
this
with
is
the
not about.
conversation.
Section 8 or
So this
whatever
is
you're
not an
applying
Continue with the
for. No,
conversation.
you took me there.
I don't know.
Okay,
This is
to
not an
continue with
African American thing. This is for
No,
you
to
no,
guys.
no.
continue with the
Oh,
conversation. What this panel is,
uh huh.
respectfully, because I'm apparently you and BX have history. I don't know of you,
I
but
have no idea. She has some hidden
okay,
anger.
you guys have interacted before.
I don't.
What this
She's
panel,
Right.
interacted with
man,
me. I don't. I
man,
barely know her. But I think she knows
you
me.
guys have some history.
Sweetie.
She has to know you from somewhere in order to know. So you guys have had some interaction before. All right.
No, no, not with her. I get interactions with everybody, so I think she's part of the attack. But I don't really recognize her. But
Ma'am,
she has.
what the
Okay.
fuck do you
Anyway,
want?
anyway, this conversation, we're supposed to be having people who are on the side of we are here from Africa, who are African American, quote unquote, Foundation Black American, and we're also having people who are here who claim to be indigenous, and we're having them here to have a respectful dialogue in the middle so we can have a common ground. You saying that you're a pure African, you're coming from descended from Africa, which there's no problem, but this is not the conversation for that. So respectfully,
Well,
we're going to
okay.
have to move
Sorry,
on
I
so we have
got
a flow in this
confused.
conversation.
I got confused. I thought it was like Black American. Are they
No, you didn't
African?
get
No, no,
confused. You
no,
read
it's
the
No,
not that.
title.
That's
actually,
not what
don't
it
tell me
is.
what I did or
Okay,
didn't get.
okay,
So your
You
drunk ass
listen when
decided to
people
come up.
okay,
tell you
okay.
something.
Center
Stop,
yourself.
stop, stop,
And
everybody.
you got some kids back there you need to
Okay,
go
and
talk
yeah,
to,
and you do have kids in the
ma'am.
background and everything like that. So you have a good night, okay? All right.
Yeah, bye.
And then we'll let DH Kingpin go ahead.
Yes, yes, yes. Peace to everybody. Peace to the panel. Peace, Africa Elite. Afro Elite. So, BX, you
Right.
know, my sister. Yeah, I'm just glad to be a part of this conversation. This is a great. Marshall did a great job presenting. Foundational did a great job. I really enjoyed, what he said in his presentation. So yeah, I've been taking notes. We had a brother come up and say some things. Um, he was talking about how this whole conversation is fueled by the teachings of Ivan Van Sertima, and I'm gonna keep it real with you. My grandmama didn't know who Ivan Van Sertima was. However, my grandmother did know that we had Indian in our family, and all of us have that grandmother that knows the oral history of their family and knows their indigenous roots within that family tree. So I just want to point something out here. I got a couple things that I want to point.
What happened?
I'll hurry up and land. Let me just point a few things out. Let me get my camera going. Let me see here. All right, so I just want to point this out. So in West Africa, they have these people called griots, right? And these griots are oral historians, and one of their primary jobs are basically being historians, storytellers, and they once again they also memorize the genealogies of people in their entire village. So you come to them and ask them about who your great 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 grandmother was, and the griot is supposed to know the family genealogy of everybody in the village. Now, here's the thing, when it comes to oral history, our African counterparts, they believe what the griot tells them. However, they tell us not to believe what our grandmothers tell us about having indigenous roots and being Indian. So I find that very, very interesting. So now that leads me to my next point. Let's talk about oral history. In my family, my grandmother said that yes, we do have indigenous roots. That my great great grandfather was Indian, and so that leads me here to my actual living family members that I found when I did my DNA test. And guess what? And guess what I found? Guess what I found? I have, first of all, let me just zoom over here. I have 0 living relatives in Africa. I have most of them here in America. I have Alaska. I have Hawaii. Let me get down there to Hawaii. And I have Australia, and also I have the UK. These are living relatives. Now, literally, I have, I know someone that actually found an adult son that he didn't know about because a woman that he had messed around with some years prior had gotten pregnant and said that it was somebody else's son. And so he found out he had an adult son. So this actually does match you with your living relatives. So let's talk about how the oral history actually matches up with what I found here in my DNA. So my grandmother said, we got Indian in our family. Let me go to New Mexico. And we're talking about Native Americans. Now, some people don't like the fact that Native Americans are here, but here I have my third cousin, Cindy Cordova. No, I have zero Spanish in me. She has some Spanish in her. However, our overlap is in the Native American or Indigenous American DNA. This is my third cousin, Cindy Cordova. So when we talk about oral history, I need the Africans to put some respect on the oral histories of our grandmothers, of our grandfathers, of our grandparents as a whole. Put some respect on our names. If you sit here and listen to the griot tell you and the entire village who your family is, and you don't have any records to match or verify, and we're supposed to believe that, but you telling us not to believe our grandmother? No. We're gonna believe our grandmothers. All right. So let's also talk about language loss. This is something that the guy was talking about. He said there's no way you can lose your language in 200 years. So I googled peer-reviewed studies on language loss and colonization, and here we
Say that.
have Oxford
Hold on, let me go.
Research Encyclopedia. We have the effects of colonization. These are the sources that were pulled for this information. We have Clark Science Center. So what does this say about language loss? Language loss. How could, if you're indigenous, there's no way you could lose your language in 200 years. It takes 3 generations. According to linguists, it takes 3 generations to lose a language. That's grandmother, granddaughter, and then the daughter. That's it, and the language is gone. So let's go ahead and check that off the list. So and another thing that we have a problem with is people that pretend to be our people that get on panels like this and try to speak as if they're speaking for us. They say, no, there's I never heard of this. Nobody ever heard of black people having indigenous roots or being Indians until, just last year on TikTok. This is all made up and brand new. And for those of us who are really from the soil, really from the lineage, we know it's not brand new. We done heard this for generation after generation after generation after generation after generation. This ain't brand new. And that's how you can tell that some of these people are not us, even though they get on these panels and pretend, oh, yeah, I'm half African and half American. No, you're not. No, you're not. We can tell who our people are just by our speaking points. So why do we question? Why do we question whether or not the transatlantic slave trade was carried out to the degree that they say it was carried out? So here's an engraving that we've probably all seen of a slave ship diagram. So we know that this diagram has been floating around. You know, it's been in books, textbooks, and things like that. And let's learn a little bit about this. It says this drawing depicts a ship called the Brooks, also known as the Brooks, Brookes. Now, this drawing depicts 482 enslaved men, women, and children. However, the Brooks sometimes carried as many as 740 enslaved people. That's very hard to believe. You know, and this is the reason why we question the numbers. I'm not saying that the transatlantic slave trade did not happen. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I question the numbers. And I believe that most of the workforce that was employed, if you will, by the slave trade here in America were already here. And this is why, because you look at things like this, and they say that there was up to 740 people on this. Now, let's just be reasonable. Let's say there were only 520 people. 520 people. So what did I do? I want to find out how much water is needed to keep 520 people alive for a 6-week voyage across the ocean. How many gallons would it take? How many gallons would it take? It would take 520 gallons per day. Total water needed would be 21,840 gallons of water that will also need to be carried on that ship to keep the people alive. This is the bare minimum. This is what you need. You can live longer without food than you can without water. So we're going to have 520 people on this ship, but we're also going to have 21,840 gallons of water on this ship. Now let's see how many barrels. So what did I do? I need to find out about the barrels that they had back then, because they didn't have bottled water. They didn't carry like any Dasani or anything like that. So let's talk about the barrels they had during the 17th century. The 17th century, barrels generally held 31 and a half gallons. So let's take a look at my calculator. 31 and a half gallons, 31 and a half gallons. Where's my calculator? Let's get the calculator going. That would be 21,840 gallons divided by 31 and a half gallons. That's 693 barrels of water that would be needed on that ship to keep these people alive along with the crew. 693 barrels of water to keep these people alive in that 6-week trip. Now, that's why we question whether or not this stuff is real. And that's why we question whether or not our people were already here, because it doesn't add up. And I'll land there.
Hey, DH.
Let
You
'em cook.
also say
Hold on,
this
hold
too,
on, hold
DH.
on, hold on. Everybody can't speak at the same time. Everybody can't do that.
Hey,
We
DH. I
do
was
have
going.
Bernard Rogers back up here. I'm gonna let Bernard Rogers. People have been commenting on what you had to say, and I'm gonna let you retort to their comments. But there have been people who've been waiting, so we're gonna get to the people who've been waiting, and then we're gonna let you respond to what people have been saying about what you said. Okay. I mean, you better come with it, because you asked for receipts, and people have been pulling up receipts since you left. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I hope you get it. But we're going to get to the next speaker, which is Talk to Me Roller Skate.
No, it's tea time roller skate.
Oh, T-Time.
Okay.
I thought that was Talk to Me. Okay.
Okay, you put me on the big screen too, because I got some
All right. What's
I
your
got
race and ethnicity, please, real quick?
indigenous American.
All right.
Okay, I don't have any African in my genealogy either. I do not deny the slave trade. I do think it happened, but not like they told us it happened. Okay, I want to turn on my camera. First, I'm going to show you, he said he want receipts, and we're going to bring these receipts to him. Okay. Okay, first, I want to show you my grandmother, and this is her name. And then I'm going to show you this. Oh, hold on, let me get here. This, let me take you over here. Let me see.
Damn, I just...
Your grandmother is very beautiful.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you very
seeing
much.
pictures of your
Okay, thank you, BX. So he said that we wasn't listed as Native Americans or American Indians, whatever. She's a full blood Choctaw, and this is this is how they stole our land because we didn't. Our family did not want to be listed on the Dawes rolls because, like Foundation said and like DH said, that's how they can control our land, and they didn't want a card. So you see my grandmother name, right? So I'm gonna go down here, and these names right here, this is for every county. You can go to this website and go to every county, and then they have this list of all your people. And let me go down to my grandmother's name. Actually, it's ton of my family members on here, but I'm gonna go to my grandmother's name. She's at okay, right there. Can y'all see her name?
I see it.
Okay, that's her name right there. And then I'm gonna take you to her brother. Her brother is still living. His name is Dr. Edgar Smith, and he did the sickle cell anemia test. He also went over to Africa to show and prove. He's from the
Somebody's saying
Mississippi.
what? Somebody's asking what the website is.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me go back. Let me. Oh, what did I do with it? I'll go back to it, but let me show this.
Okay.
This is her brother right here, and he did the sickle cell anemia test. And there's also government documents. You can go to the Mississippi Senate. He was recognized for it. He's old. He's older now. I spoke to him on the phone yesterday. He's very sick, so please y'all do not try to contact my uncle. And if you see right here, he did the sickle cell anemia test. He's a biologist. And I'm gonna show you his credential. I'm gonna let him tell you his credentials. He's from. This is the school he graduated from, and he gonna tell you his credentials.
About my abilities as a scientist, even though there were some things that I might not have had at Tuvalu that was prerequisites for graduate school. Tuvalu had told me that I could learn. Okay, and I felt confident about any challenge that I had academically. Having that in mind, in 1955, I went to graduate school at Purdue University. In 59, I received my PhD in biochemistry. Went out to Boston to do a postdoc at Harvard Medical School with my lab at Bethesda Hospital. From there, I became a member of the faculty at Boston University School of Medicine, the University of Massachusetts School of Medicine. Then I became vice president of the University of Massachusetts system, from which I retired. Building on that foundation that I had at Tuvalu College.
Okay, and I just wanted to show y'all, so cause they say they want receipts and they want to see that our people did stuff. I'm gonna go back to that website so they can let me find it for you. Okay, here's the website right there, and you can find that you can actually
It's kind of blurry. It's kind
okay,
of blurry.
let me go back. Can you see it
What
now?
can I say? MSGW.org.
Right, and then all you gotta do is
Is
just
that
go
it?
down to the counties,
Okay.
and
So
So
when you
that's
go
why
to
I don't
the
want y'all saying
when
pretending.
yeah,
Because
so
y'all
when
didn't do everybody's genealogy.
just real quick, when you go to the website, there's different categories, and then you hit county
yeah,
or okay,
you can go.
okay.
Let me go there real quick. Let me find. I don't know what I just did with it. Okay, let me go back to okay. You see the? Let me go back up because my family's on here so many times. It's ridiculous. I can
Okay.
even show y'all the on the last certificate. You see the counties right there?
No, I don't see anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Can you see the counties right there?
Okay, yeah.
And that's the website right there.
So that's MAGE.org,
No,
right?
MSG
MS
MSGW.org.
MSGW.org. Okay.
Right, and then it give you the whole history about how our people are. These are all quote unquote black indigenous us that did not want to be on the reservations. And you see how many look it's thousands and thousands. And
Oh wow.
this is just one county in Mississippi. Just imagine all over the United States.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, now, Roger, you asked for some receipts, boy. They bought that to you. Hold on, let me just make sure I write that down. MSG.org. All right, Roger, man, you got. We're gonna let Alfonso go, and then Roger, you got it. Alfonso.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. Hello?
And can I say one more thing too? BX, thank you, and thank you, Afro Elite. I just feel sad, and I told them my great uncle is not doing well, and in the comments they just talking down a bad about him, and that makes me want to cry because I just got off the phone with him last night, and he was crying talking to me because I can't go visit him, and for them to disrespect him like that's sad.
Yes.
Right. Why would y'all do that?
Block them.
Block them. Get
That's
them out. Get
that's
them out.
Honestly,
crazy.
Mute them.
honestly, because that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
That's not the type of energy that
Right.
we have in this panel. She didn't come here disrespecting anybody. She didn't come here bad mouthing anybody. We're not doing that. We're not
Not at
doing that.
all.
I didn't see that. So thank you for calling that out, and prayers to your uncle. You know, and thank you. But I didn't see that, and if we do see that, we're blocking that because that's not the type of channel that we have. That's not the type of chat room that we have that I'm gonna host personally. All right. Now, Alfonso, you got what's your race and ethnicity? The website is msgw.org. All right.
Yes, Black American.
Foundational Black American.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because Myron Gaines is gonna come up saying he's a Black American. So we gotta add, we gotta
Okay.
verify. But okay, what's on your mind?
I don't really got any receipts, but I do got a little bit of logic, and some of that is everybody around the world seems to understand that YT people whitewash everything. They understand that, but they can't conceptualize the possibility that they can whitewash the identity of foundationally Black Americans. They can't conceptualize that, but they can do it with everything else. We see they do it to everything, whether it's Black music, it's the gods and goddesses of Egypt and whitewashing them in movies and stuff like that. They do it with the Chinese. They do it with everybody around the world, but they can't conceptualize the fact that they could possibly do it with our identities, which doesn't make sense to me. Also, if you look at, you look at history and they show the earliest being in Africa, okay? Black people migrated all over the world, but people can't see them migrating to the Americas before anybody else. Also doesn't make sense to me. You could see them migrating everywhere else. You see paintings of Black people everywhere in Russia. You see them all over the world, but you can't conceptualize them coming to the Americas. This is the only place of the world that they didn't touch. That doesn't make sense. Also,
Brother, not only do they say we weren't here, if you try to make the argument that we were here, they'll say you hate Africa. You can say we were in China, we were in Russia, we were in Australia. That's fine. If you say we were in America, then all of a sudden that means you hate Africa. That's what they're gonna say. But
exactly.
keep going. I just had to say that. Keep going.
Also, if you went to that story, I don't know who was talking about it earlier, and he was talking about when, I don't know, he went to South America and he said the people said he looked Indian, like Black Indian, in comparison to the African person. Like he knew the difference between them. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Bill Russell has a story about that. It was either him or like one of those old school basketball players stating they went to go eat at like a cafe back in the day or whatever, and they weren't accepted. Even though they're these great athletes, basketball players, they weren't accepted. They were declined service because they were Negroes. And then some other
That,
Black people came after.
that was Muhammad Ali, bro.
Oh, was it Ali?
Muhammad Ali,
They came
yeah, it
in
was
after
Ali.
them
Yeah,
and they accepted
yeah.
their service. And the person said, why? He said, because those are Africans. They're not the same people. So people know the difference. There's clearly a difference that people know between us and Africans from the continent of Africa. And then just my last thing, if there isn't a possibility of us being indigenous to the Americas, why won't the United States let us leave in masses? Why won't the government let our people leave in masses? We've tried to do it before, and they always stop us. Is it possible that the land will die when the people of the land leave, and that's why they won't do it?
Good question.
I have a question. When did we
Hold on,
try to
but
leave in mass?
I
Uh,
don't.
there's
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, there were
there's,
times. I guess you
there's
can bring up Canada or Liberia, but I
Marcus
don't think
Garvey
collectively we all tried to leave the
with
land.
Marcus Garvey. There was another time in the 1960s when it's happened. There have been attempts. Of course, it wasn't every individual
Hmm.
FBA, but there have been mass groups of people that
Not
have
in not
tried
in
to do
Did
it.
you just say with Marcus Garvey?
not in mass.
Yes, there has been times in mass. We can
So
we
you,
can search it up.
I know when Marcus Garvey got here, and because they were Pan African, and we're gonna kind of derail a little bit, but to
Yeah.
talk about this, Marcus Garvey got here, and Marcus Garvey was about like mass exodus to Africa,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna still do a little bit more research on that. But when he came to America, even though the idea and the concept of Pan Africanism was generally accepted in America, I don't think the idea of a mass exodus to Africa was accepted. I don't think we went that far when Garvey was here. At least to my knowledge, there wasn't a large amount of people who went that far to talk about like a mass exodus to
Yeah, I mean,
Africa.
it's not going to be every single person. You can't convince
Okay.
everybody.
And I
But like
gotta
I said,
say, an
there's also
exodus
been
to
like
where?
there's to Africa, to Africa. But there's also been the one in the 1960s as well. There have been attempts at it happening throughout time, and they don't let us leave. We'll let a
Okay.
few people leave. They'll let a few people go. Whatever you want to go live in Africa, you can go live in Africa. But if
To
we
where in
all
Africa?
decided to, it doesn't
Hold on,
matter.
hold
Take
on.
your
Let him
pick.
go. Let him go. Let him
It
go.
doesn't matter. Take your pick. It could be Egypt. It could be Libya. It could be Nigeria. It doesn't matter. But if every single FBA decided today we wanted to leave America, it doesn't even have to be Africa. We want to leave America and go to any other country, they would never do it.
Mm,
They would shut down the borders. That's guaranteed.
okay.
Can I add to that real quick?
Hold on, hold on. I want to let Burner, what's your name? Burner Roger. You were back up here, and a lot of people had a lot of things, a lot of receipts to disprove what you had to say, or I guess to verify their lineage, verify their claim. You said people didn't have proof, people bought proof, so you're back up. I'm gonna let you respond to what people had to say.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother, and appreciate everybody on the panel. So I just wanted to first address the brother that said something about how could you lose your language. One, what I specifically said is not that you lost your language. It's very easy to lose the ability to speak a language very quickly. It doesn't even take 2 or 3 generations. From someone who speaks 3 languages, it's very easy and it's very quick. I said you lost the knowledge of your language. There's a very difference of that. You don't even know what language you originally spoke.
That's
There's a
not what you
difference of that.
said.
That's a difference of that. We can find out. We know what Cherokees originally spoke. We know what Aztecs originally spoke. We know what Mayans originally spoke. We know what Tainos originally spoke. You don't know what you originally spoke. That's the difference. You don't even have knowledge of the language that you spoke. That's the difference. I didn't say you lost the ability to speak your language. I said you lost the knowledge of your language altogether. That's
Okay.
first. Second,
Can I ask a
second of all,
question?
oh no
Because
no no no.
aren't
Let
you
me let
by
me address.
ethnic? You're like
Let me,
Dominican, and you're also Black American, right?
100%.
So Dominicans, who conquered Dominican Republic? Was it the Spanish? So that wouldn't
100%.
be your indigenous language either, sir. That
100.
wouldn't be
Yeah,
your.
yeah.
So you're
I know. So
conquistador
again,
descendant.
I know the
So, but
knowledge
why you?
of. Excuse me.
When you say knowledge, can you specify what do you mean?
So
Man,
she
he
just asked
confused,
what
man.
language, what language is the indigenous language of the Hispaniola? It's
Mm,
an Arakan language of the Taínos Indians, right? I know this language. I can't speak it, but I know what the language is. You don't know the language that you originally spoke. That's what I'm getting at. There's a difference.
But he has a DNA test to
Okay,
have markers in certain areas.
hold on now. Hold on. With that argument, what language did we speak in Africa?
I
Because we
couldn't tell
had
you.
to speak some language. I'm
Yeah,
just hold on. It because I feel like that it's not a solid argument that we're not indigenous because we don't know the language that we spoke, because we would know the language that we spoke from Africa if we were African. But since we don't know any language at all prior to slavery, you have to admit that we knew a language. So I don't think that disprove, because with
yeah,
that
yeah.
argument, I'm
You
just
knew
saying with that argument and logic, that disproved that we're native, but that would also disprove that we're African with the same argument.
no, you spoke. You spoke an African language. That's verified.
Which African
Yeah,
language?
I couldn't tell you. Do your
Okay,
genealogy.
okay.
Who
It seems
You
like
verified
don't
it?
even
Who
know.
who
Whoa,
who
Oh
whoa.
my
Let me
verified
God,
it?
finish. Let me
dude,
land.
dude.
okay.
Let me land. Let me land. Let me land. So you're talking about so everyone here probably has multiple different African countries that that they have descendants from. All right, that's or ancestors from. That's just the reality of your DNA. So you spoke some type of language at some point. Okay, I'm talking about the indigenous language of this land. What's the
But
indigenous
Africa
language of
wasn't
this
even
land
Africa
that you
until
speak?
after the
Hold on.
Berlin Conference.
Let's let him
No,
go, because
let me
I'm
finish.
trying to get to what he's
Yeah,
saying.
let me finish, and then I'm going to address the receipts that I didn't get all the receipts that was supposedly posted, but I just caught a little bit of the end of that. And again, from what I could see, I just couldn't help but laugh. One of the sources that this guy posted up had something about the Guinea people. Again, that source that person posted is directly from Ivan Van Sertima. He said that in Columbus Journals that he was told that Guineans people, the Indians spoke with Guinean people from the voyage in 1311. Again, this is all source. Everything he posted was sourced from Ivan Van Sertima. Nothing was original source because those original sources that says that or supposedly said that don't exist. That's
The
I didn't
ancestors set it
Hey,
up.
I didn't
oh
mute
my
him.
God,
So
man,
let
get
me
this
ask
man
a
out of here.
question. Let me
Well,
ask
if
a
he's,
question.
we're gonna wait for him to come back, but I'm gonna let y'all speak while he's, I guess, I don't know, maybe he got a phone call
Yeah.
or something.
no. I'm here.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm here.
maternal haplogroups, paternal haplogroups, wouldn't that give us a pinpoint more of an origin so that we can have an idea of the language so we could grasp the knowledge? What are the haplogroups for?
Excuse me.
Haplogroups, the haplogroups. Would we be able to use that to pinpoint where our ancestors originated from and therefore research the languages where our haplogroups are from?
I don't know what you're asking me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're
Right.
I can't really see. I can't really hear what you're saying.
Anybody else heard me?
He's
All right.
confusing
I
himself.
heard
You
you.
know what I'm
I
saying?
think you're talking
The
about the
guy's confused.
hieroglyphs, like
No,
the
The
haplogroups, right?
haplogroups.
So
Haplogroups,
he's
yeah.
saying that we don't know, like we probably had a multiple of areas or whatever. We don't know all of this, but isn't it like the haplogroups would pinpoint like our earliest ancestors where their point of origin is, so that we could research that area and get a grasp of the knowledge that you think we should have? But that was the question, if anybody could answer it. And y'all don't even have to, because I'm at the point where our ancestors that were here on this land left us a few languages I could learn. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not worried about
okay.
ancient this and ancient that.
My thing
Yeah, he
is this
confused. The
whole
dude is
argument
confusing,
is
man.
Burner, are
kind of
you there?
ridiculous.
He confusing for real. He
Ancestors
confusing
got him.
himself.
And
Ancestors got him on key time.
Can I read
and
some?
can you go to Africa and just pick up where you left off here? Can you start working and drilling the land if you know it's like oil or diamonds there? Because when I've been in these live sessions with some of these so-called true Africans, they don't want us there. They just want to rub it in our face that we've been detached from the root of Mother Earth, and they don't want to believe that we have previous travelers and people ventured off, and like even some of those boats didn't come back with so-called white tea captains. Some of them people took over them boats. I mean, like when the first ones got here, I heard that they were the degenerates from all the tribes that they didn't want no more. They were the ones that were unruly,
No,
the
no,
other
no.
things that we
That's
think.
the European history, bro. That's the European that
But
came and
let's.
get
Well,
us.
I'm just saying. Let me cook for a second. So let's just say it's real that some of those people broke loose as soon as they got over here. You know what I mean? As soon as the chains got off of them, darted. Because we know right now we ain't finna let nobody come take us out of nowhere and then take us to a place. And if they do, as soon as you get off that boat, what you gonna do? Or you gonna
Okay.
dart and just figure it out? Or go ahead.
Let's let Burner go ahead and finish, because a lot of people had a lot to say about what Burner originally said. So we're gonna let Burner respond to the claims that were made. Okay.
So I'm gonna read three primary sources. Primary sources. No Ivan Van Sertima or interpretation of what was written. I'm gonna read primary sources. I'm gonna
Verna, what's
provide
your
the
definition of a primary source?
excuse me. Primary sources. I'm gonna provide you the pages. This is the funny thing about it. Everything he
Okay.
posted.
Okay. Now other people was able to pull up the receipts. I'm gonna let you show your
Yeah,
receipts.
yeah,
But
100%. And the funny thing about what I saw from the little bit of receipts, guess where they came from? Everything that I'm saying. Is the problem is nobody on this panel for sure has actually read the primary source, because you would know right then and there the words black, the words negro were never used in any of those texts.
Yeah, because they
Never
use
used.
and
copper
as
color.
and as hold on, to be fair, because maybe you didn't see it all, nobody here said that. People said, now the person who was here, Marshall said the word Ethiopian was
Yes,
used in the
yes,
text multiple times, and
100%.
these are things I've seen.
Yes,
These are
100%.
people who said that they didn't say black, but they said these people were dark skinned.
Yes,
These
100%.
people had African features, so
Nope.
they didn't necessarily need to use the word black or African. But
African
okay, I'm just
African features
because
was never
I
used.
want to, because he's not here, so I
Mhm.
want to clarify exactly what he said. And then there were other people who had other receipts, but you say you have receipts, so I'm gonna let you show your receipts.
Yeah, so I'm going to read primary sources of exactly what was said.
Oh, okay, we got Marshall is here, so I gotta drop somebody, bring Marshall back up. Hold on.
Go ahead and drop me. This is more of an educational thing.
All right, appreciate it.
I'm still listening. Go ahead. Y'all keep this going. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. So they want Marshall back up. All right, Marshall.
You guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you show the receipts? Because other people have shown the receipts.
Yeah,
Can you
I don't know.
show?
I don't know how to share my thing, and I'm not really. Again, I can post the links in the comment section. Specifically, what it said. He says they paint themselves black. They are neither. They paint themselves black. They paint themselves red. They paint themselves white. They are neither black or white. They are the color of the Canary Islanders. Again, that is verbatim.
They're the color of what?
The Canary Islanders. So if you know anything about 1492, and if you ever wanted to know why Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans speak a different dialect of Spanish, it is because most ancestors come from the Canary Islands. It is a part of Spain that is completely different. That's why that dialect of Spanish is a little bit different than what you will hear from Mexico, Argentina, etc. So that's first. That's what Columbus said. That is
What?
Columbus's
Okay,
words
but what
verbatim.
color is the Canary Islanders?
Yeah,
Original.
why don't you look up? They said they're a Berber people. They are originally from northern Africa. That is what the Berber people are, right?
Okay.
In the context of using the word Ethiopians, what does Ethiopian translate to? The land of black burnt face. That's what Ethiopian
What does it have to do
translate
with
to.
America, bro?
No,
Because,
because you're trying to disprove the point,
no,
but I think you're
I'm not
actually
just.
making the
Excuse me.
point.
Can I
Excuse
just
me.
ask Burner a question?
Excuse no 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 wait. So that source that he's talking about when it says Ethiopia, what does it say directly under that passage? They have big black eyes. They are fast and agile. They resemble the people of the furthest Siberian regions. The furthest Siberian regions. This is what this person said. This is one of the sources that I can see down there that he's probably using. That's exactly what it says verbatim. So in the context of
What's
using the word
that?
Ethiopians, it means dark skin, 100%. But in that same passage, literally one word, one sentence down below, it says these people resemble the farthest regions of the Siberia. That is verbatim what it says. So every text that this person's going to use is literally an inference from Ivan Van Sertima. And he, again, I keep on telling you, who did he sell this to? There's no Guyanese person who's ever heard of him. You could ask any black Guyanese, like, who's that? So a Guyanese man had to come to the United States and sell this to whom? Just like Marcus Garvey had to come to the United States and sell what to whom? It's easy to sell this crap to people who are
So
lost.
You just generalize
because I'm gonna let Marshall come back up.
Please
I'm gonna
do.
let Marshall come back up, and because he has receipts that you're trying to refute. But you're saying you originally said that there were no black people here, okay? And now you're saying that there were people who are dark skinned. You said you needed verification. I'm just trying to get where your standard is, because you're saying that the people that the Europeans described, you're saying Europeans did describe people looking like black people.
No,
people looking with dark skin, people looking like they have dark skin and woolly hair, and people who looked, quote unquote, what we would see now today or call now today black.
No, that's an inference. The word Ethiopian was used in a biblical or an old world manner to describe people who were dark skinned. That's why you see Ethiopia over and over in text.
That's what they refer to Africa as.
But it also, hold on, it also does mean where they were referring to Africa as Ethiopia. So when they say it looks like the people from Ethiopia, they mean that it looks like people from Africa. And they would also describe them as being dark skinned and having features that resemble those people as well. It also said that their hair texture and all of that stuff resembled those people as well.
No.
You know,
There's no reference that says these hairstyle resembles. There's no reference that says resembles these people. Only time the word Ethiopian is used in the context of skin. That is it. Everything else you just said was an inference.
That's a cap because they're pointing to the landmass.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Let's let Marshall. Marshall has the receipts. I'm gonna let Marshall show his receipts again, and then we're gonna get into it.
Pull it up, and I'll be able to debunk every single one of these.
Marshall, you got it, bro.
I'm actually
I don't see it.
I'm actually show you. I'm not going to say, well.
Yep. Fernando David.
All right, I'm not going to just say it's my primary.
Yep.
What he said and not show you. Hold on, sir, because I was quiet. Thank you. So again, anybody can look up what these actual say. He's talking about one person. I showed you 10 people that said these things, right? And that's just the first 10 out of many, right? And it's not just black. Black is a new concept. It's a new term that was created after the fact. So of course they're not going to say black. These are the games they play with you. When they say that. So you guys can hear me, because I'm people in the comments that can't hear me.
Yeah. At first it was a little muffled, but I can hear you.
I'm driving. You know me. Usually when I'm on these panels, I'm on my way to work. But yeah. So here's, like I said, the gentleman right here at the top, right? Matter of fact, this is the first 4 to 5. Let me go back to 1. But since we on 4 to 5, let's go to 4 to 5, right? Black like those of these, right? He lost constant for 14. He was alive from 1484 to 1566. William Bartram, right, said when he's
Go ahead.
No, it's all right.
You got it.
So brother William he called them dark skinned people that look like Africans. I don't know if you can see my thing. Am I on the big screen?
Yeah, you are, but I don't know. It's the words aren't coming up clear.
Listen, I think you on the big screen. That's why, so I can't see it.
Let me see. Let's shrink it down, and then let me expand it one more time. Okay, there you go.
Cool. And then the gentleman at the bottom, right, said there's dark skinned people in the Caribbean, and he breaks it down. Hold on, let me get the other one. 1 second. Let me see. Let's start from the beginning. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, so Brother John said, I'm trying to drive and read it because I got to. The natives was blackish compared their hair and color to that of the Ethiopians. And we understand the Ethiopians because Africa was called Ethiopia during these times.
right? And we know how the Ethiopians were. They showed us a clear description, the difference between the Ethiopians or the Africans. This person that's
Oh, he's
melanated,
driving.
the
Y'all
hair
know,
and
y'all.
the color. Yeah, he's talking about the hair and the color, right? So not just the color, the hair also. Benjamin, Benjamin talked about the natives with African features. He talked about natives with African features. He made it really clear that these people are melanated people. You don't see natives today that have quote unquote African features, which is pretty much the features of all indigenous around the world. It's not just African, it's the features of all indigenous around the world, but they call it African features, right? James, again, number 3, these stuff you can look up yourself. He talked about them having complexion like that of the Moors. Now, anybody know the Moors? The Moors were, that's what they called melanated people back in the day. They call all melanated people the Moors, right? Black or more, right? Let's keep it going. Because the brother was trying to call took one person, and there's many more, but this is just what I can come up for right now because I'm driving.
Yeah, and I can't wait till you be done
This
because I just
gentleman,
want
right?
to ask you this real quick.
Hold on, sir, because I didn't interrupt you. Hold on, sir, because I didn't interrupt you. Thank you. We already went over that last one. This gentleman right here at the top, he talks about them with African. He said they confused them with Africans, but noted that they are natives. So how can you confuse a native of today with an African? Let me know. Can you see a so-called native and say, "Nah, my bad. You blended in with them Yorubas over there. I thought you was Yoruba." you can't confuse the so-called native of today with an African. So who can you confuse with an African in 2025? Sometimes, not all the time, because we don't really be looking like them, right? So let's keep it going. John, right? He said that each tribe was black as any African. Okay, let's keep it going. I'm just going real quick because I'm trying to drive and read at the same time. Mr.
Be safe,
Pedro.
brother. Be safe.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm
Brother,
being real.
you
That's
should
why I'm
go to the
being
side, brother, and read this.
yeah. So this gentleman saying black skin and what? He didn't just say black skin because that brother like to play games. And well, they just because they said black skin don't mean it's black American. They said black skin and woolly hair. So he's really clear on what it was. He said black skin and woolly hair, not the long straight hair. Let's see. Did I go through this one already? Okay. He said they confused them with escaped African slaves. How can you confuse the natives with escaped African slaves? How? Can you confuse the natives of today with escaped African slaves? Heck no. Western Plains native don't look like an Igbo person. I'm sorry, they don't. Let's keep it going. Let me see this last one. He knew that some tribes had African features and black skin, so they're very clear, right? Because I know the brother loved the YT sources. I got you because you don't like to listen to melanated people, so I got some YT just for you.
What sources are you using?
Right. Let's be clear. They very clear on what they saw when they did their exploration. They was not confused on what they saw. Hold on. It said Europeans descend colonial. Hold on, I'm trying to read it. They sometimes classify dark-skinned Americans as free people of colors, Negroes, and we all know that because thanks to the 1924 Racial Integrity Act from Walter Plecker. This is exactly what they did. Reclassified a lot of the people. These are the tribes they said look like Negroes or Black Indians. The Yamasee, the Seminole, the Choctaw, the Natchez, right? So there's not just the five civilized tribes, because that's the first thing people like to say, well, it's the 5 civilized tribes, so those are Africans. No. It's other tribes too that they classified as Negroes, right? Let's keep it going. Hold on.
Hey, yo, host.
I'll
After
land,
he's done,
I'll land it right there. I'll land it right there. But one thing I will say is this: we got to be honest when we have these conversations, right? You can't say, okay, they said it's melanated skin, but that'll mean it's Black American, right? Melanated skin, melanated people were all over the world, and that's a fact. If you go to Thailand, the indigenous people look like me Afro Elite, and everybody else. They call the Yah Wu, the Yah YAWHOO Wu tribe, and they got afros, and they look just like everybody on this panel. The indigenous Philippines called the Eta tribe, right? They up in the mountains. They look like us, afros and everything. The indigenous Australians look like us. The indigenous Indonesians look like us. The indigenous around the world all look the same. And so I don't understand how all of a sudden in America things change. We understand that in Egypt they changed all the books around. We got the Arabs that's telling. We got the Arabs right now, right in the book. They're Egyptologists, they're archaeologists, and they're writing that the Arabs were the first Egyptians. But because we utilize more than 3% of our brain, we understand that the Bantu Africans were the ones that were the actual Egyptians over there. The Sudanese people were the actual Egyptians over there, right? But according to the books, we understand they changed the books around. They have Egyptologists that say Arabs are. They have archaeologists that say Arabs are. And if I was to go with your logic, I said, well, according to the books, they said that they are the Egyptians. So, that's not true. So if it can happen over there on the continent of Africa, I don't understand how people don't understand how it can happen to the United States of America. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'll land on that.
Yo, host, can you showtime me?
I'm gonna give Burner 30 seconds to respond, and I'm gonna let you go. And then we're gonna, start wrapping things up here. We've been here for a few hours.
All right, yeah, I appreciate the brother coming up on here and showing me his chat GPT. Good for him to source that. But literally every single one of those.
Don't do that.
Hold on, everybody. Let's let him go.
Look, every single one of those. I'll just start with number 8 for his. It says Peter Maher, the one that he had that reference. I'll just start with number 8 for his. Page 259, De Orbe Nouveau, a direct source, not an inference, a direct source. The natives, Francisco Aya, the natives were white men with long hair down to their heels. That's exactly the source that you're using right now. Number 8, to debunk me. You're trying to use that source, and guess what? That source says exactly that. One of those sources says exactly that.
So the source, you said, hold on, I'm confused. You said the source he pulled up said that it was a white man who was here?
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't read the direct sources, which he's never read any of those books that he has right there, I guarantee it. If you actually read what Peter Maher said, number 8, excuse me, let me finish. Number 8, go to page 259, book 2. It says exactly that. That's why you guys got to be careful.
Okay, so where are these direct sources?
That's why you got to be careful about the sources that you're using. I'm gonna, like I said, I dropped the links a couple times in the chat. You can go and look it up.
Because to be honest, brother, with you, and we will have to, let other people get to speak. It seems like you've been moving the goalpost the entire time.
I didn't know.
I'm just giving you my opinion, but it seems like you've been moving the goalpost
because I can tell by the lack of scholarship that's done here. It seems like I'm asking for direct sources.
Originally, what you were saying is that you are not going to believe anything at all, not archaeologists, not skeletons that verify that there were Negroes here. You're not going to believe the statues that clearly look black. You're not going to believe that. What you need is proof. You need quoted proof from the European explorers that the people here were black. That's what you said. And that brother, come on now. That's what you said. And you said if it's not that,
I did not say European people.
Any of that.
I did not say European people. I'm saying the only source that you guys are providing that is from a black source is Ivan Van Sertima.
I said, you said you need documentation. I said, well, there were people who were here, documented here. So we believe
by whom?
We were here.
Documented
you
by
said,
whom?
hold on. You said the documentation needs to verify that these people were black. Okay, that's what you said. And then I said, okay, well, who would be the ones doing that? And then you said, well, the Europeans who came over here, they documented, and what they described the people who looked like, or the natives, they described the natives not being black. Okay, so that's what you said. Now we have Marshall who came up here and he gave quotes from 10 different people,
He
10
didn't give
different
quotes.
European
He gave
people
Chat GPT.
who
Chat
gave
GPT says what you want it to be.
brother, hold
Bro,
on,
you gotta
because
Now
it
listen,
you
bro.
seems like you
discrediting
moving the
Damn.
goalpost.
Chat
I'm saying,
GPT.
because he listed 10 different people who've had multiple statements to say that these people were black people or African descent, whatever you want to call it, you know.
Never, and again, you
And it
can go to
seems
the
And
like
then,
prompt.
every time somebody says that,
oh
now
my
the first thing
god.
you say is, well, that's Chat GPT, or that's not an
Because if you
Exactly.
original
go to the
source. That's
sources,
So
what you're
so here's
saying.
here's
Okay,
the
so
thing.
it's like,
Here's the
Yeah.
thing,
if
Afro.
the first thing
Oh,
you
my bad.
said,
Jesus,
Burner,
go
the
to the
first thing you
sources
said,
and find it. Go
brother,
to
the first thing you said was that you needed some quote that these people looked black. There's been several
I did
people
not
who
say
provided, brother.
that.
You didn't. First off, the first thing you said was not no original source. You bringing that up
I've
now?
been saying
That's not.
original source.
No
The
way.
only
Brother, you
source
didn't
you
care the
have
No,
first
is
it's
how
time
you
not.
when he
That's
brought
what
interpret.
up
you
the
came
chat
out here and
GPT.
said.
Now you
I said
care? Like, that's
original
weird as
source.
hell.
I gave
Okay,
you.
and let me original source.
Do you
Do
understand what
you
original
think,
source is? Are you?
brother?
Have you been
Hold
to
on. Do
college?
you
Have you
think?
been to
Do you
college?
think? Stop. Because here's the thing. You've
Just
been
drop him,
moving the
bro, cause
goalpost
shit.
around a lot. You moved the goalpost around when it came to the language. And then when we tried to verify the fact that, okay, well, the reason we don't speak the language is because of slavery, you move the goalposts around. So it seems less that this is a stance that you really believe, or it's a stance that you don't want to believe.
No.
That you don't want. It seems more that you don't want it to be true than you don't believe it to be true. Because if you don't believe it to be true, your standard would have stayed the same. But your standard just it keeps increasing, and the bar just keeps getting higher and higher and higher for it to have been reached in order to prove that there were any black people here. You keep raising the standard and raising the bar, so it
To
comes off
show
as it, brother.
Barta.
It
So
comes. Hold on. It's coming off as you don't want it to be true. Not that you don't really
Bartolome
believe
de
it
las
as much
Casas
as you
never
don't want
said
it to
that.
be true. Now, hold on.
Never said
We
that.
also, you didn't have to say it. You also, we also have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people who are from the lineage don't have this much issue. A lot of the contrarians that we have when it comes to these conversations are people who have either who are outside of the lineage or who have a family outside of the lineage. You said, and I'm not saying that this is a problem, but you said that half of your family is what, Dominican or
Yeah.
something?
So let me speak on
And
that.
I'm
So you
hold
know
on. Let me
why I
just
know
land this
this?
point. Let
Because
me
we
land
learned
this
this in
point.
high school.
Let me
We
land
learned
this
this in high
point,
school.
brother. Hold on.
I've
Let me
actually
land
In
this
read those
high
point.
sources.
school to
Stop. Come
people
on
who
now.
actually
Let
have
me say this
scholarship? Are
because
you
it
ridiculous?
seems
You
like
ridiculous.
everybody who comes up and we can have a respectful conversation, but I can't help but notice that when we have these conversations, it's usually 9 times out of 10 people from outside of the lineage who keeps moving the goalposts just to be a contrarian to any indigenous claim here, which is
And here,
what I keep noticing you doing. Whether that was the language that we spoke, whether that was
Right.
a European. You said first if it was Christopher Columbus. Now you're saying all 10 of the people he just sourced, even though he said there were more. All 10 of these people are illegitimate. You know what I'm saying? None of what the
Right.
10 people he just brought up is true. I'm all like, okay, brother, that's you moving the goalpost right there.
and here's the thing, Afro. Look, I strategically, right? I strategically put listed with sources, right? So if you look at it, yes, it is ChatGPT, but it said it also has the source of the books that you can look up and see primary sources. And if you shoot the screenshots again, it has the source of where what was said and what the book was, because I knew somebody's going to say, well, GPT. Listen, this is chess, not checkers. So I already knew he was going to say that. That's why if you look at the screenshots again, they had the books on there.
Which you have never read.
Okay,
When
and
it
Right.
the
Right.
happened.
What
Right.
does
Which
that
you have
even
never
I'm
matter?
at
read.
my
He gave you
laptop.
the
Hold on.
primary sources you
I'm
were
at my
crying out
laptop
for.
right
Now
now.
you
You're not
just
gonna
being
hold on, hold
No,
on,
no,
wrong.
no,
Hold
no.
on.
Yeah, get your
hold on,
laptop. You're on
guys,
your
guys.
laptop. Pull
Everybody
it
can't
up.
do it.
Pull it up. Get your
Na-
laptop.
So what I'm
Tell
saying
me
is this. All I'm
tell
saying is
me what
this.
to Google
Oh
to
my
get to
bad.
this original source. Tell me what to Google to get to
So
the
so
original.
so okay, pull up your laptop and go
He
Hmm.
want to
to
argue, man.
De Las Casas Christopher Columbus Journal. Pull.
Now,
He want to argue.
I want you to what you have to do is because Marshall proved 10 people. He showed evidence of 10 different people. So is your original source going to not just refute one, but it has to refute all 10 of the
Yeah,
people you
yeah.
just quoted?
So if he pulls up each one, I will refute each one very easily.
No,
That's
this
how
ain't about
confident I
you,
am.
bro.
Brother,
This
You
ain't
don't
okay.
about you. You
do the
All
done
right.
took
work.
over this
Do
whole
the
thing.
work.
He done
Do the
took over.
work.
He done took.
No,
We've been
no,
talking to this
brother,
guy for
we
about an
not gonna do
hour
that.
and something.
We not gonna
So
do that.
you
There's
challenge
too
me.
much,
You
brother.
challenge me, and then you're not going. Then you don't
Brother,
want me
here,
to
no,
prove
no,
it.
no, 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 because you challenge people to bring up
Oh
receipts.
my goodness. Oh my
We've had
goodness.
at least what
Look,
three, four people bring up
look. Oh,
receipts.
you're on
You
your
haven't
computer.
bought no
Look it up.
receipts up.
Look it
You're
up.
just stop. You're just being a contrarian to
No,
everything you've heard so far. You
because
have
you
not.
have. I know you haven't
Hold
read.
on. No, no, because what we're not gonna do is sit up here and argue all night to prove something to you, because you haven't proved your point. Your point the entire time has just been a contrarian. Well, I don't believe it. It doesn't meet my standard. I don't believe this. Well, I don't think. No, you ain't the original sources. You ain't pulled these original sources up.
Mind you,
You say
his
you've linked
standard
them.
is what he
The
learned in
other
high
people have
school.
shown sources, and you have not shown any sources, sir.
You know what's crazy, Afro Elite, brother? The crazy thing about it is it doesn't matter how many sources we may show. He's gonna always move the goalpost. It's people that it don't matter what you show,
So
you're gonna
plug in
be
what I
to
put in there.
doing the base. So therefore, with that being said, I could show. I got more. Anybody that know me know I'm the source guard. I utilize ChatGPT because I'm driving right now, so I needed something quick, real quick, with the source.
Yeah,
But
but
I had to.
don't say
But
the
I had
driving
to.
thing because TikTok is funny
I
with
got you. My bad. I apologize for intent purpose only. So again, again, anybody know me know I got primary sources. I got links and everything for days. But again, I'm in the situation I am right now. But again, what we got to understand is that it doesn't matter how many sources we show. These are the type of people that's going to say or have something to move, a goalpost to move every single time. So for me, it's like I'm not going to sit here and continue to go through this. And I'm not saying there wasn't no light skinned native. There were light skinned natives here also. Samuel George Moulton talks of he called them the Polar tribe, or he called them the Eskimos, right? But he said the rest of the American Indians was that of a Negro. And you can look that up in a book called The Aboriginal Races of America by Samuel George Moulton, right? And so again, I'm not denying that some of them may have said there was white looking natives. Of course, we understand the story of how they came from Siberia, but the American Indians that rest from the Vermont down to the Caribbeans, from the Californians, all look like us here. Is what I'm trying to say. So I don't get what he's trying to refute or debunk. There were light skinned Eskimos or polar tribes. That is a fact.
and
May
even
I chime in? Oh,
okay. Go
sorry,
ahead.
Afro.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking that because I know I did say this is in a debate that we were trying to find some common ground, and I think David is right. We let this go on long enough. So Bernero, I don't know if Marshall may want to debate you on his panel, but right now I want to get back to the original premise of it all. A foundational Black Americans speaking to American Indians, so that we could find some middle ground and just find out, how we're going to move forward because we do have some other issues, us, like for us, not to be
That's right.
disparaging, but I thought you was going to come up and provide something a little different than debunking and debating. Like we didn't want this. We wanted more
right.
of a trying
I
to
want to
bring
I want to
neutral ground and
apologize.
tolerance.
I want to
That's
apologize. I apologize,
no. Don't
y'all.
apologize because I think that this was important because it's to me it seems like, and we've had a lot of people up here with different opinions, but it seems like everybody who claims that black people were native here has some proof, whether that's their own genealogy, that their family's genealogy, whether that's receipts and documentation and history and all that stuff. But the people who claim that we're not indigenous have no proof, just have arguments to refute that. They don't have any proof that we weren't here first. They just have this standard that they claim that we have to meet in order to verify that keeps, going back further and further. And I think, and that's why I let you talk for so long, and why I'm saying what I'm saying is because everything that you said you needed to see as proof, people have given, whether that's their own um, um, genealogy, whether that's their own historical research from explorers and architects and scientists and all that stuff, whether that's their own family. We've had several people come up and show receipts, and you like, nope, don't believe it. Nope, don't believe it. Nope, don't believe it. And then people even brought up the thing with the language, which you said we would know our native language. People brought up why we wouldn't know our native language. And you just, nope, don't believe it. So it seems like the people who don't want us to be native are just going to be contrarians to any bit of proof at all. Which is why when you first got on the panel, I asked you, what is your standard of proof? And your standard of proof has changed throughout the conversation.
It hasn't, but continue.
It has. It has.
So I'm gonna say again, and I posted in the comments, what you could take from that comment, the exact verbatim of what was said in Columbus journals, that everyone is inferring something else.
Columbus. Okay, and we're gonna move on after this.
Oh my God.
Columbus was not the only person to come over.
Yeah, and I posted number 9 that was false as well.
You a time wasting tether, Lord.
Do you think? Let me ask you a question. Yes or no? Do you think Columbus was the only person to document anything?
Absolutely not. But he was one.
So why
Columbus,
do you keep bringing about Columbus?
De las Casas. Let's first get it right. Bartolomé de las Casas was the first one to document what Columbus said. Okay, so if you're going to use him as a source, because everyone wants to use him as a source,
you're the only one to use him as a source.
Get it right.
Stop, everybody.
Okay, y'all. Okay,
stop. Because the thing is that we're gonna have to move on and everything.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Marshall has brought up several different quotes from explorers. He didn't just bring up Columbus. You're just trying. You keep putting it to, well, Columbus didn't say this, or it was mistranslated or something like that. You keep bringing it to one individual, one explorer, and saying that his quote was mistranslated when you have quotes from several other explorers. And like, you would have to say that every single explorer here who ever said anything is all mistranslated. And like, at this point, brother, like you reaching to grab something, you reaching for something that's not there. You can't say because Christopher Columbus may or may not have been misquoted that every single
European. No, it's not that he was misquoted. You guys are literally
that's just too far, honestly. And it comes off like you don't really believe it as much as you don't want it to be out there.
Again, this is stuff that we learned in high school there, right? So you guys are just learning this, literally just learning this.
Okay.
I got them. It's enough. Okay. He centered himself. If he is half Black American, he aligns more with his Dominican side or whatever. He's bringing up information gets updated, people. Information gets updated. He's saying he learned something in high school and he hasn't produced one receipt and said he cannot turn on his camera. I get that. So then leave the discussion and come back when you're prepared and we have it again on another day. But our whole, it wasn't a debate. It was just a discussion, and I would like to get back to that until the time that Afro decides that it's
we're wrapping things up.
We have it.
And then we're going to get to everybody's last words, and then we're going to wrap.
Thank you very much.
And I think that was very important. That we have 130, 140 some people in here. Do you guys see what we're talking about? Because nobody can say we didn't let him speak. He spoke, left, and came back and spoke. Okay, he spoke longer than anybody else. And you guys have seen him move the goal. Well, I'm not saying it. I let him speak long enough to say, okay, dude, you keep moving this goalpost. There's something behind this. Yes, I am going to be uploading this on YouTube. This is going to be on For the Culture on YouTube. So go to YouTube, subscribe to For the Culture. That's where I upload these things. I also have my own YouTube channel. But Ian, I'm going to let you go.
Can you showtime me up? I just need 2 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. So the mistake that you guys are making.
We can't see. We can't see what you're showing.
No, I'm not showing anything. I said Showtime. I didn't want to cam up. You could Showtime. You put me on the two
Oh.
minutes.
Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So the mistake that's being made here is not new. This actually happened before. The mistake that I'm saying is that black people claiming to be the indigenous people of the Americas. That's a mistake that you guys are making. But it happened before. There's a book that was written in 1903.
What happened?
They knew he was about to start lying.
Yeah, the ancestors cut that off real quick, man. I'm happy for it too.
Wait. Hold on. Where did I lie? I was saying there was a book that
Okay.
was
There was a
written.
book. You got it.
Yeah, there was a book written called Two Little Savages in 1903. In the book, there's a character that meets a little boy, and he teaches the little boy how to be Native American in the book, right? And this character, he even teaches the kid a Native American language, right? So the author of this book uh, had half knowledge of what he was writing about. He assumed that the language that he was referring to was a Native American language. The language that he's talking about is Tutnese.
Who was the author?
Thomas, his name
I'ma
is.
stop you. I'ma stop you. I'ma stop you.
Hold on,
I'ma
what did I
stop you.
do?
No,
What
no,
did I
no, no,
do?
no. Because you know why? I was scrolling one day, right? Tuttonese is a sacred language of our ancestors.
But
We are
sister,
not,
you
we have a, hold on. I didn't get it out. So I recognize you. And you was on a Caribbean Live and you were explaining certain things about Tut that should not be discussed on public platforms. They
Mm.
are not of the lineage. And now you're here on this panel bringing up Tut. So I'm
you're
gonna
cutting me
stop
off.
you. No,
You're
yeah,
cutting me
I
off.
can. I
So yeah,
can.
you
And I
guys
can
aren't going to
drop
hear what
you
I have to
too.
say.
No, I don't want to hear what you got to say if you're going to bring up
No,
Tut.
you
If
ain't.
you're going to bring up my
So you just a
ancestry,
rude
Don't bring
bitch.
up
But
then you
okay,
got
Tutney.
to
goodbye.
go.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on.
Bye.
Hold on.
What he called her?
You
Are
gotta
you
you gotta get
A
saying
dropped.
B
He
word?
called her a B word.
He
Yeah, he
gotta
Lord
called her a
have
go.
B word.
mercy?
Yeah, he called her a B
Yeah,
word.
Lord.
Yeah.
it's
Okay. Anyway,
okay.
let's stop.
Mhm.
Okay. BX, close us out. Let's wrap this up because yeah, we.
Yes. Oh, so after let me apologize to you on your panel, but I do recognize some of these people for certain things. I did say don't play with me to keep it cute. Afro will allow you to speak. But one thing we're not supposed to do is when we say something is sacred, you don't share it with everybody. There's a code to it. When we say we're operating on a code, it's a code. And so I felt the need, okay, to stop him. And for that, I got called to be. Okay, I accept it. My name is not BX the gatekeeper for nothing. I'll accept being a B, honey. I will. As far as the African lady, she's problematic to me in my eyes because she uses, and I know she knows it purposely. You know, she does it purposely. Well, I'm a full African. I'm the mother. But when you say stuff like that to a foundational Black American or anybody of the lineage, you know that our ancestors were forcefully bred or raped, right? And if you forcefully breed somebody, you're raping them. That is, oh my God, that's horrible to me, the way they disparage certain events. And I find that we're coddling these other groups. We can have something about music up here. It doesn't even have to say African, Caribbean, all these other things. And here comes the African. You know you're from Africa, right? You know what? And then when you don't agree with them, they get to talking about how mixed we are and stuff. But my mixture comes from enslavement era, so I won't play with her. And meanwhile, she's sitting up there and our aesthetic. They don't wear that stuff in Africa. Well, they didn't back in the day. So if you're really the mother, honey, act like it. Don't appropriate our culture. So I'm gonna land there. I thank Afro for allowing his platform to be used. We were trying to come to some middle ground because we are of the same lineage. Our ancestors were here from the same period. You just probably have more indigeneity and more aligned with that side of our history. And so I allow y'all to go ahead without interrupting y'all, but I do find sometimes American Indians call us slave babies and stuff. And so I got to go at them. So this was the perfect time for me and them and Afro Elite for us to all come together and just discuss things, come to some form of middle ground because when the smoke clears and Trump finished deporting all that he's going to deport and stuff, at the end of the day, it's going to be us and the American Indian that's going to come to any table that's offered to us. And that's my mindset, right? So I just want some middle ground. I don't think there's need to disparage each other. We're closer to the American Indians from the United States of America. Than we are anybody else. And I don't feel that we should be going at each other. But I go at other FBAs too when they play with me. So I got smoke for everybody, y'all. But at the end of the day, we do try to be a unified front because we know that it's about that lineage, it's about the ancestors. And the guy that came up here that half Black American, half Dominican, centered himself, which the African was trying to do. And I should have checked the Dominican. I'm gonna just say the Dominican guy earlier, but Afro will find a, he's got his spin, his take, and he's gonna put it on his panel with his thoughts, and we'll go from there. If we'll have another one of these again.
Yeah, we'll definitely have another one of these. We were on here for about 3 hours, like 2.5 at least, but about maybe 3 hours probably. Maybe a little bit longer. We've had a lot of people bring up receipts. I appreciate you guys' time. People disagreed. If you guys disagree, you guys can come up as long as you guys are respectful with that. You know, even if I say anything, and this time I was more quiet than I normally am because I just kind of let the panel have their back and forth. If I saw some inconsistencies or stuff like that, then I'll say something about it then. But you know what I'm saying? For the most part, I'm more interactive with that. But I let the panel kind of do its thing. But I think it was good. If you guys like this, you guys need to follow so that way you guys can come back when we do this again. All right.
I just appreciate you, bro, for real. You know what I mean? Like you and BX, BX know I love her. So I appreciate you, man. Like you very patient, bro. You more patient. You
He
extremely
is.
patient,
I
man.
love you too, though.
Seriously,
I love
like
all of
for
y'all
real.
too. Mhm.
Yeah, but that's why I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna land 2 seconds, man. That's why I voted for Trump. Get these people out. The administration is doing our work. Yeah, we ain't got to do nothing. They exposing things that we already knew. So I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and drop y'all.
Appreciate you, David.
Get
Thank
them
you.
out of
Thank
here.
you.
All right. Y'all can follow. Y'all can listen to the playback on the For the Culture is on YouTube. For the Culture on YouTube. That's why I put the playbacks to the lives on TikTok. So when I go TikTok live, I put all of that on YouTube so you can go to the playback. You can listen to other TikTok lives we've had. We've had some very, very good educational lives on the For the Culture thing. We also have different stuff up there like podcasts and stuff like that. I mean, that channel is just really popping overall. Is growing a lot, is really popping a lot. If you guys want to go there, you guys can. You guys can also follow me on my individual channel, which is Afro Elite on YouTube. All right. So you guys make sure you guys do that. That being said, I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. Y'all stay
Wait,
cool.
Afro. What day? What day? You're not gonna ask you.
Uh,
Give us a
uh,
day.
Maybe I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it tomorrow. Yeah, probably Tuesday, to be honest. Tuesday, yeah. That's something I feel safe guaranteeing that. Because I don't want to say tomorrow. I'm looking at it like probably Tuesday.